you go.
All right, let's do the pledge since David's all ready for us. I pledge allegiance
To the
To
flag,
the flag
United
of the
States
United
of
States
America,
of America,
and to the republic for which it stands,
and
one nation,
one
Nation, under
under
God,
God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty,
with
liberty,
and
justice
justice for all.
and
Great. Thank you, David. I think we're gonna have you do that every meeting. It's great. Appreciate that. Well, welcome back to our virtual CB2 board meeting tonight, March the 3rd. As you know, we'll be continuing to do virtual until further notice. As things develop on that front, we will keep you updated. Some just general housekeeping notes and rules. Please remember to mute yourself when you're not speaking. If your mic is on and you are not speaking, we'll ask you to mute it. And if you're not a board member, just remember the priorities for board members, especially after elected speak or other guest speakers go. But we do have our public comment time, which is just after the presentation of our guests. So if you're a board member and you want to speak, please either raise your hand or better yet, use the reactions button in your Zoom. Make sure you're up to date with your Zoom software so that you can raise that hand, because a lot of times we can't see you if you're don't have your video on, or if you're off the main screen on a second screen, so we can see in the participants list if you have your hand up. And as always, be courteous and be respectful of time for folks. That would be really important. And the other thing, of course, is that we do have for our chat, we ask you, we have a few important notes about the chat that I always run through very quickly just to remind us kind of our house rules, our community agreement. So if you're using the chat, be respectful. Everyone has a right to be here, even if you don't agree. Please, no personal attacks. We will give warnings, and keep your sidebar conversations to a minimum. Try to stay focused on the meeting and what's going on. We don't always monitor the chat. We try as best as we can. If you don't feel that your question or something came up and it wasn't addressed, either raise your hand or somehow else, bring the question up again, but just don't use all caps and spam the chat, please. Also, we'll go into the elected officials, invite them to speak soon. So if you're here and you want to speak, please make sure that you let us know that you're here, and either post it in the chat so we know that. And also we ask our guests and electeds to try to keep to the 2-minute or 3-minute time frame, because we have a lot to achieve today. We also have a guest speaker, so we would appreciate that. Just before we move into that section, I also want to make a mention that to call attention to Anatol has just posted the sign up. So if you want to make a public comment, please click that link in the chat, tinyurl.com/cb2 community. Oh no, that's the community rules. Did you already put up the sign? Yeah, it's up the top. tinyurl cb2 sign up. And if you do that, we'll know you're on the list, and we'll be able to call you up in order that you sign up when that time comes. But before we hand it over to our electeds and invite them to speak and give us updates, I just want to take a moment, and I was inspired by a meeting I was at earlier this week by our vice chair, second vice chair, Frank Wu, and the words he gave at this meeting. And I just, before we start, just want to take a moment to acknowledge how lucky we are to be here, to be able to host a public and civil dialogue regarding things that are important to our community issues, and we are here in a safe space. Here we are in New York City and Queens, and many families come from other countries. And in the past week, we have seen events unfold in Ukraine that are affecting so many families. and some in our local community. And I just want to say our thoughts and hearts go out to all those that are affected. And if you can just take a moment to think about what you're grateful for, and to a moment of respect and acknowledgement of what's going on in Ukraine. Okay, thank you. So who do we have from the electeds? I see, looks like Mercedes is here from Senator Gianaris's office. Mercedes, you want to start?
Thank you so much again for having me. Hello, CB2 and everyone here. I'm Mercedes Jennings. I'm from Senator Mike Gianaris's office. Just three major quick updates. Our office has been working very vigilantly, and as it's probably been on the news, you've seen, with a lot of the residents in our community concerning Con Edison and the very hiked rates that have been going on. So Senator is working really hard to try to pass legislation to help residents so they don't have to pay like $200-300 more on their Con Ed. If you are having that problem, please feel free to contact our office. We have been working diligently on that. Also, the senator has just recently passed the Twindler-Stindler bill, as everyone knows, the famous Twindler-Stindler situation that had happened, and Netflix had the movie on it. So he really is concerned about making sure that people are safe, even if they try to do online dating. So that is one of the other things that he has recently passed, and is currently working to make sure that the situation going on with the energy in the community and safe and healthy conditions are continuing. So he's working really hard legislation on that. I am open to any questions.
Lisa.
Yeah, Mercedes,
Hi, Lisa, how are
state-
you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
My question is, the governor reopened the ERAP and the LRAP funding for,
Yes.
tenants who are in arrears. And I want to know, is there any action on the state legislature level to adequately help to fund that money?
Yes, thank you for asking that. That's actually very important too, because that's a twofold situation. Not only are they trying to make sure that there's more money to fund that, they're actually also trying to push the federal government to continue their commitment for the Better Back Bill, to not only make that commitment for tenants that are at market rent, but also tenants that live in NYCHA, because tenants that lived in NYCHA actually didn't receive any ERAP money. They were ended up putting last. So many of them are kind of still pending, and they may have applied last June. So there is a lot of efforts on the legislative end, and I know Senator Gianaris has been one of the leaders in that fight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Any other questions?
Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you so much, Mercedes.
Thank you.
All right. I see Ernie from I thought I saw Ernie, right?
I'm
Oh,
here.
here, from Carolyn Maloney's office. Thank you, Ernie.
Yeah, well, I must say it's hard to focus on anything right now other than the horrendous situation in Ukraine. And this was, I guess, really when the war started, but Carolyn, with the oversight committee, I mean, she's in Washington now. And of course, that's something that everybody is trying to help out as much as possible with it. I went to a, on the Lower East Side over the old Ukrainian restaurant there, it's full of leaders of the Ukrainian community, and they were all, of course, asking for help, for food, for clothes, for blankets, all that. That was about a week ago. It was a fairly large press conference, and I know that's been going on probably in many parts of the city. And her statement, I'll just read a little bit of it, was, "I'm horrified by Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine, which endangers the lives of innocent civilians, disregards international law, and could create a major humanitarian crisis in Europe." And I'd say this is several days old. It's all that and more and worse is in fact happening. So I won't read all of that, but I'll go briefly to some other things. She has been working on passing the Bipartisan Postal Service Reform Act, which is a law she sponsored. She's been working on gun control legislation, stopping the flow of guns into New York City. She's had press conferences, and I guess there are 3 bills there that she first brought before Congress in last November, but she's, working on those. And of course, the real test will be, can they get past the Senate? She's also leading the New York delegation and calling on the New York Public Service Commission to investigate the Con Edison rate increases. And I guess, given again the situation with supplies of fossil fuels around the world, it's probably not going to be getting better. Though one of the things that will make it better for our part of Queens is this new connection with Hydro-Quebec in Canada, which is going to be bringing, I think, 1,300 megabytes of energy from, clean resources in Canada, which are also good because it comes from hydro, which doesn't vary. The sun doesn't have to be shining, the wind doesn't have to be blowing. And that should hopefully get past all the various regulations, and construction will start on that. And that's coming to Astoria, and then will hopefully enable us to finally shut down the last of the big polluting power plants, which have been, so bad for our communities here. What else has she done? She also she emphasized the importance of CDFIs and MDIs for low income communities and communities of color. That was a press release a couple of weeks ago. As member of the Financial Services Committee in Washington, she's been pushing for that. That's another important thing. So that's about it. And anybody has any questions?
Any questions for Ernie? Or no? Ernie got off easy this week.
Yeah.
This month.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Okay, so next up, Daniel from Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Maury, for having me. I'm the Deputy District Director of Operations for Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. First, want to echo everything Ernie said about what's happening in Ukraine. The Congresswoman also signed on to a bipartisan letter to the President about the invasion that requests the President to seek congressional approval before any U.S. military involvement in the region. The Congresswoman is also supportive of sanctions on Putin and his oligarchs. And if you or anyone you know has relatives in Ukraine or questions about the refugee process, please reach out to our office. Our constituent liaisons are ready to assist. Additionally, the Congresswoman held a town hall on February 15th. She discussed redistricting and shared a couple of legislative updates. On the note of redistricting, we just want to acknowledge the new district lines that were passed in Albany and that will be gaining new areas of CB2 further into Long Island City and down into some of Maspeth. So sadly, we'll be losing a little bit of Woodside, but we're excited to have the new CB2 members joining our district. Additionally, our legislative team has been working hard over the past month to submit over a dozen proposals in the Water Resources Development Act, otherwise known as WRDA. WRDA funds studies and projects in and around America's waterways and has been passed on a bipartisan basis in each of the last 4 Congresses. So we're hopeful that the proposals that make it in will actually be passed. Included in the list of proposals that our office submitted is abandoned barge removal from Flushing and Eastchester Bays, wetland restoration and oyster reef development around LaGuardia Airport, various projects for stormwater management and wastewater treatment in Queens and in the Bronx throughout our district, Big Rock beach cleanup, and an ecosystem redesign of the LaGuardia breakwall, among others. I shared the comments about the free New York City tax prep last month, so I'll put that in the chat just so people who weren't here have it. And that's all I have at the moment. So if anybody has any questions, let me know.
Any questions? No? Okay. Thank you very much, Daniel. Did I see Councilwoman Juan pop in?
Yes. Hi, Maury. Hi, everybody. Good to see you. It's good to be back. So just to give you a quick update on the district from a council perspective, citywide, we are in budget season. So the preliminary budget has kicked off, and to let you all know, I am chairing the contracts committee, which makes up 20% of the city budget. I'm also serving on the budget negotiation team. So we will be very busy for the next 3 months, negotiating the budget with the mayor, and also focusing on where we need to advocate more for making sure that we have adequate funding that may potentially be cut. So we are also going through our capital and discretionary funding requests. I know that a lot of our nonprofits have applied, and we appreciate you for applying. My budget director, Nancy Corona, will be in touch for in-district nonprofits that have applied as we continue to review them, as well as for our local schools and parks, to make sure that we're adequately allocating budget for all of our district's needs. So if you as a constituent have a certain park or have a school that you have your heart set on making sure that you see some sort of improvements on, feel free to reach out to our office. And I also have our legislative and comms director, Kevin Kopropsky, on, and he will drop in our contact information again in case you don't know how to contact us yet. In terms of our constituent cases, we have had more than 150 cases since we came in to office on January 3rd. So our office has been very busy. Because of COVID, we have been working mostly remotely, and now we are taking appointments to meet with you in person if you would like, by email or by phone call. And we are currently in Jimmy Van Bramer's old office as we are waiting for some things to be sorted out for our new office location. And the phone number is the same as well if you have been in contact with former council member Jimmy Van Bramer's office as well. In addition to that, there is a lot happening in our district. I know that there are a lot of things that are changing, and those of you who serve on transportation committee, I know that they will give formal updates. Those are all things that we're keeping in touch with, as well as concerns over public safety. We recently had a case in Queens Plaza of a woman who was attacked, and we have been in close contact with both the precincts as well as our local community-based public safety cure violence organization, community capacity development, to make sure that we are hosting in-person self-defense courses, working with the local shelters as well to make sure that all of our community concerns are being addressed. In addition to that, if there is anything else, I am happy to answer questions, and please do not hesitate to reach out to our office because we are here to serve you. And I look forward to continuing to work together to make sure that all of our community's needs are being addressed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have a few questions here. I think is that Regina, is that your hand up?
Yes, it is.
Okay, you have the floor.
I would like to ask the councilwoman again about 39th Avenue. Every time we cross the street, the barriers have been moved. There's no enforcement, and it's really dangerous. Is there any way of getting it redesigned?
So Regina, if you can call our office anytime this week to make sure that you give us exact cross streets, and it's really important that you have it reported to DOT, because I'm not sure exactly which intersection or which streets you're talking about. But Isaac Blassenstein, who has been on the DOT committee calls, he is our point person for DOT and anything transportation related. So please make sure that you call in and file a constituent case, and we can follow up.
Okay, thank you.
Regina, do you have the number?
Yeah, it's Jimmy's old number, right?
Yes, it's the same one.
Great. Thank
Yes,
you.
I have that memorized. Actually, I did call in once and complained and gave her the street.
Okay, did you also file it with DOT or 311? Because we have to
I
follow.
complained since the street was changed to everyone in existence, it seems like, and there's still no enforcement there, and nothing's been done.
What, can you specify what you mean by enforcement? Enforcement of what?
Enforcement of cars going the right way, of motorcycles going the right way, of speed limits, of cars making the turns the way they're supposed to. I'm speaking right now, I live at Phipps, so I'm speaking specifically between 50th and 51st Street on 39th Avenue. But it's not just there, it's just the cones keep being torn down. The big orange cone is thrown over the fence into the park, and it was back there today, but it's moved every day. It's like no man's land out there.
Okay, thank you so much, Regina. I know that we have other cases open about similar complaints, so I will make sure that our team follows up with DOT again.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Regina. Okay, we have like a
Thank
couple more
you.
questions. for you, Councilwoman, we have Mohammed. Mohammed?
Hi, good evening, Chairman. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. Hi, Julie. Congratulations on your excellent service, and then you elected our councilman. So my name is Mohammed. I'm a resident of Woodside. Mentioned that already that our safety and security is the major issue right now in every community. So I saw in front of our house, like the PS12, just 2 weeks ago, one guy suddenly stopped the car and fighting with a school parents. It is 8 o'clock and the parents are all leaving from the ground. We're going there, principal over there. Many people are coming there, but the guy is left because there is no police officer, no security camera on Woodside in front of the PS12 school area. Even 41st Avenue and 71st, there is no camera. So I called to the right away to your office just after you elected, then the people are informed me that, okay, we noted that, and I called to the precinct 108 as well, but they don't so much important for this issue. So that is my request to you to take care especially about this security area. How can we improve the security system and the good neighborhood, and Regina mentioned also that I'm really excited to be peaceful our neighborhood like CB2 community area. Thank you, Julie. I hope so you can give some attention about this issue. If need, I can return to your office as soon as possible for this issue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mohammed. So you're saying that you already filed this case with April?
No, I just called right away to the your office and also in police precinct, because there's no security camera between the Woodside Avenue and 41st Avenue, the both in a whole around in the PS12 area, there's no security camera in the street. That is a very serious issue and important. So maybe you can do something. If you say the police department, they can set up the security camera in Woodside Avenue and 41st Avenue.
I will have my team follow up to see what the issue is around PS12 and what within the last year, what the cases have been, and if there is a reason for surveillance cameras to be installed there, because we don't want to live in a surveillance state where we have cameras everywhere all the time. So there's a process that has to be followed. So I will make sure that my team follows up to look into it. Thank you.
Yeah, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thomas.
Thank you, Maury, and welcome, Councilmember Juan, and thank you again for meeting with the Blissville Civic to hear our concerns directly. Tonight, I was happy to hear that you'll be involved in the city's budget. My concern is the reported $615 million budget cut to homeless services, specifically directed at the adult shelters. With recent activity at our Borden Avenue Veteran Shelter and ongoing activity at the North Star Shelter, I remain very concerned with cutting the budget for homeless services. Thank you.
Yes, Thomas, I agree with you completely, and I will be advocating for mental health services, substance abuse services, as well as making sure that the shelters are adequately funded to make sure that the current residents of these shelters, whether they're temporary or permanent, are receiving the services that they need because they impact the very neighborhoods that they are living in, as well as all of our neighbors. So thank you.
Thank you, council member.
Sheila?
Yes. Hi, council members. Great to see you here. I'll be very quick on two quick things. One is also talking about the budget. There's concerns about the citywide cut to what's called the Community Development Fund from the Department of Cultural Affairs that primarily affects smaller and community-based organizations. I've spoken to colleagues at the larger institutions who also believe that unfairly, disadvantages the smaller and community-based organizations. So want to root for your fight in that. The other thing is, since you're chair of contracts, and boy, do we have a lot to bring to you. There are a number of things in the contracting process, and I'm going to speak a little bit to this on Monday when I testify, because it affects, again, mostly small and community-based groups, and certainly immigrant groups and groups that are run by and serving communities of color, is the barriers to accessing capital funds. Make it so that you have to be, highly staffed and be able to raise large amounts of money to access most of these capital grants. And so I just wanted to make sure you're aware of this, just in case I don't see you and you get to hear what I have to say on Monday about this. But it's definitely a citywide issue, a district-wide issue, and affects, as I said, the smaller organizations that should have access to that capital money.
1000%, Sheila. I completely agree with you. Since December of last year, the controller and the mayor's office and myself have started working together, and we kicked off a task force, especially for what you're talking about, because we know for MWBEs and for smaller organizations that don't have a development arm of their organization, it makes it really impossible even to receive discretionary funds. And we know that there are barriers to entry, and we know that especially for capital funding, which allows them in a real estate market like New York City, allows them to have a sustainable place to thrive and to build capacity. We know that it is just not possible right now. So I am here to support you and partner with you, as well as all the organizations. Feel free to shoot our office an email so that we have everything in writing as well, because the more constituents and the more nonprofits actually voice their needs as well as their struggles and their pains, it's easier for me to use those talking points and those data points and those anecdotes to really make a point to the mayor's office, as I am currently working with MOPS and OMB, going through a whole entire reform for the contracting process with the city so that everyone has a fair shot in doing business with the city and receiving funds from the city with our own taxpayer dollars. Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you.
Kat?
Thank you. Yes. Hi, Julie. How are you? I would like to also just piggyback on what Sheila shared. One of the reports that recently came out from, I think it's from the budget office of the mayor, I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and check my notes, but was the highlighting of the fact that there isn't actually training for folks to know how to apply for city council discretionary funds. My organization has actually done a racial equity study looking at how disparate the money is given to predominantly white organizations. And this is often because they actually know the process by which they need to submit the application. Then they need to go and make a budget meeting, and then they know what needs to be said at those budget meetings and the information that they need to bring. That whole context is completely missing. We've actually spoken with several council members, actually as part of our discretionary report card project. And many council members are sort of told, from what I understand, from the city, that you just need to go and teach people, but with no budget. And so I just want to advocate for technical assistance to be like part of that reform, because like I think I filled out probably personally 15 different applications for folks who come to us and they're like, I don't know how to do this. Like, I didn't even know this was an option. And so, you know, there's only so much like, you know, a single person or even a single organization can do if there's not a full throated support of the access to the knowledge that will get people the access to the capital.
Yeah, Kat, it's good to see you too. So to give you a little bit of context, I used to be a federal contractor. And even when I stopped doing federal contracts, I worked on a lot of city contracts in IT. And then in addition to that, I was also on the board of 2 local nonprofits. So going through with them, applying for discretionary funding or even trying to attempt to get capital funding was heartbreaking. And that's why as soon as I joined the city council, I advocated and made sure that I was the chair of contracts because of all the things that you're describing, because we've seen discrepancies, especially for Black and Brown organizations in our very community who were unable to receive funding for the work that they were doing, and they were operating for free, basically as volunteers. So for our first hearing in February, I kicked it off with having an oversight hearing on Passport, which is basically the interface that people use to apply for funding. And we know that, as your reaction is, it is far from perfect. And I asked the same very question of like language access. Currently, Passport is only in English, as well as digital literacy and just the overall understanding of the city's procurement process of how city contracts work and how RFPs, RFIs, and RFXs work, that hold off a lot of smaller organizations and MWBEs from participating in doing business with the city. So these are all, and today I even had another hearing today for contracts budget with MOX. So everything that you're saying, I am with you, and those are the same questions that I'm asking the mayor's office, as well as MOX and OMB. And these are things that I'm going to continue to fight for and advocate for. So everything that you're saying are, you know, things that I am saying. So if there are any other talking points, or if there are specific organizations that you want me to be in contact with so that I can invite them to testify at my hearings, please feel free to email my office. So that way you are added to our listserv of list of organizations that can come and testify directly in front of MOX, directly in front of OMB, so that I can keep you in the loop so that your voice is being heard, because it's not enough for me to advocate by myself. It always helps when I have other nonprofits and other organizations there with me and individuals advocating for the same thing, because there is power in numbers.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I think that I would be happy to provide for you like the extensive research that we have, and a lot of the like quotes and stories and all of the stuff that we've gathered to help this cause. But like I said, like I am really hoping for a line item for technical assistance, because there are organizations like mine out here doing it for free, like to make sure that Black and Brown people get the opportunity. And also my director of research and strategy will be testifying. So yes.
Thank you. Just so everybody knows, we are now live streaming to YouTube. So that's just for your information. Okay, I see Khalil is here. Thank you very much, Councilmember Juan. Thank you. Sorry, Khalil.
No, no worries. Thank you, Maury. Good evening, CB2. No major announcements today. Oh yeah, I'm Khalil Bragg from the Queensborough President's Office. But I just wanted to let everyone know the community board process for applications has been underway. I have been interviewing for this board. There have been 60 new applicants. I've had 150 in total throughout the borough of Queens. I've gotten through 13 from CB2, and it's been spectacular so far. And if anyone needs any updates, I know I see a lot of people who I've interviewed actually on this call right now. If you have any updates or questions, you can email me or the Director of Community Boards, Maricela Cano. I'll put our information in the chat. I don't want to take up too much time. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Khalil. Really appreciate it. Any questions for Khalil or the Borough President's Office? Okay, thank you. And I know we have Craig here from Councilman Holden's office, right? There's Craig, okay.
Hi, everybody. Great to be here again. To start off, Councilmember Holden, as you may know, is chair of the Veterans Committee. So we've been meeting with numerous veterans advocates. We expect to have for the budget hearing next week, but then we'll also be holding a hearing on veterans homelessness the following month as well. I know Thomas, who I think is on the line, mentioned funding cuts to Borden Avenue. I know we're planning a trip there that's in the works. So by all means, feel free to reach out, offline if you want. So we discuss, how we could assist that veteran shelter in Councilmember Wan's district. And any other mental health services you think are in danger of being cut. A few community events coming up. To start, as you mentioned, the crisis going on in Ukraine, the Polish and Slavic Federal Credit Union in our district is collecting funds that will go directly to Ukrainian refugees in Poland. So you can go on their website. I could put the information in the chat. They're collecting donations through the John Paul II Foundation, and you could send money directly to that account. You just put donation for Ukrainian refugees if that's what you're if that's what you're looking to do. Obviously reputable organization in our district. There is a few e-recycling events coming up. There is one in Maspeth Federal Savings Bank parking lot in Maspeth, and that is April 23rd from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m., rain or shine. There is also a e-recycling event in Rosemary's Playground. That's Fairview Avenue between Woodbine and Madison Street in Ridgewood. And that date is March 26th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Next week is the New York City Open Data Week. So Councilmember Holden is no longer chair of the Technology Committee, but he is still on the Tech Committee. So Open Data Week is March 5th through 13th. There's over 75 events online and in person. I would encourage you to check it out. We also contributed to the Beta NYC report that they put out for the new mayor. And it's basically a number of technology proposals on how we could use technology to improve government services. So be sure to check that out as well. And I think, and there's also a early detection of breast cancer awareness. A mammogram bus will be on site at Maspeth Federal Savings Bank. And this is on Wednesday, March 30th from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. That's all I got. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
We do have a couple of questions. I'm going to call on those people in a moment. I saw Thomas first and then Lisa. I just want to make one mention that in regards to what you were talking about with the open data, our chair of our tech committee, our first ever chair of our first ever tech committee is Anatol Ashraf, and he actually is involved in the open data week, and he's teaching a session. So if any, Anatol, you want to give a plug since we're talking about open data?
And thanks, Maury. Yeah, I'm a newly minted open data ambassador with a few other folks across government and the private sector. I will be teaching an open data 101 session on next week as part of NYC Open Data Week, and do check out the link. It's a lot of cool stuff there. But we'll also be setting up more sessions throughout the year to help people learn about open data, what it is, and how it's available to you right now. And you can use it to answer some questions and help complain, help like more effective complaints and get things done. So yeah, do check out the open data link, and I'll be teaching a session. I'll drop the link there as well. But yeah, do stay tuned for more.
Thank you so much. Okay, Thomas.
Thank you. And first, I want to thank Councilmember Holden for immediately responding to our cry for help with the veteran shelter. I am pleased to hear that Councilmember Holden, in his capacity as chair of the Veterans Committee, will be visiting the veteran shelter on Borden Avenue. So thank you very much. My concerns are that, as reported by the chair of the CAB meeting and myself, DHS has been unresponsive and the provider has been unresponsive since January. So a call upon you, Councilmember Holden, to hold everyone accountable and see what's going on there. So thank you very much. Our veterans deserve better. Thank you.
Well, thanks for that info. And something I guess, I don't know if I call it an early victory, but we all attended the Veterans Advisory Board meeting. That means quarterly. And if everyone isn't familiar with the Veterans Advisory Board meeting and you're interested in veterans issues, I would encourage you to attend, because it's really it's almost like a community board meeting, but for veterans. And it's chaired by the Veterans Advisory Board. They're appointed mostly by the mayor, but it is the only public forum where veterans can interact, just like you all are in a community board meeting with city agencies. And one of the first requests we had was to get the Department of Social Services, so meaning like DHS, HRA, to this meeting. And we found out yesterday from the commissioner that indeed they'll start sending a rep to every Veterans Advisory Board meeting going forward, so that they could hear directly from the veterans. So we're definitely looking to improve communication and coordination among different agencies, because although the Department of Veteran Services is the agency for veterans, in reality, other city agencies are catering to more veterans and seeing more of them. And especially when you talk about veterans most in need, who are we talking about? The Department of Homeless Services and HRA. So, we're definitely looking to improve communication, data, and understanding that that's the reality on the ground. So Thomas and anyone else on this call, if you know of friction points between within different government agencies or communications with New Yorkers who are veterans, please let us know, because we really want to make an impact in this area.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Lisa?
I just want to quickly underscore what Tom said, which is that there used to be a very active advisory committee that was, involved the community board and the veterans shelter. And, we just want to restore that level of communication. Mary Torres will say that she was participating in that committee at one point in time. And it's really important to us to have that level of communication. So I'll defer any other time to Mary. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And really kudos to Tom Matusas for really raising the issue again to the forefront. So really that goes on him, and I'm thankful so much for that. And we did Tom did send out an email yesterday and today, and the chairperson of the Borden Avenue Veteran Residence did indicate that since there's been new leadership at the company that manages that shelter, as well as since they returned from living in hotels during the pandemic, that actually there's been zero communication from the Institute of Community Living. So obviously, we need to ring the bell, which we're doing, and kudos again to Tom for doing that, and we'll keep everyone posted on that. And I know our Congresswoman, our Councilwoman was also CC'd on that email. So I know we're gonna have a lot of people wrapping their arms around making sure that we're getting more active again with that shelter, as well as the other shelters in the area.
And I'll just add, prior to joining the Councilmember Holden, I ran job placement programs for homeless military veterans, and have gone at least maybe 3 times a year to Borden Avenue shelter since 2013. So, obviously haven't been there in the past 2 years, but very familiar with the shelter and their operations and a lot of the staff there, at least pre-COVID. So, definitely let's stay in contact on this issue and make sure that, we get the shelter operating, effectively, and you guys, again, the communication you need.
Right, and just to point out, ICL does have a new CEO that just came on in, I believe, October and November of 2021. So obviously, we need to make sure that everyone is clearly educated on how important it is to our community that our veterans are properly cared for, as well as everyone in the homeless shelter system.
Thank you, Mary. Anybody other questions for Craig? All right, thank you. Craig, I have a question, but I'm in the interest of time, I think I'm going to save it and contact the office outside.
Sure.
Just to address, and it's just related to data privacy. And since the council member is on the tech committee, I'll follow up with council member Juan as well, because she's also on the tech committee, but I'll follow up outside of here so we can save time and address that outside. But thank you for coming.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, everybody.
No problem. And I see that James, are you still here? James Mangaluza?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Hi, welcome.
Hi, yeah, so I'm here from the office of New York City Controller Brad Lander. I'm just gonna quickly put in some information about a federal stimulus fund tracker that the office has just come up with. So it's in the chat. So this will track how the city is spending the money that's coming from the federal government. So that will be, periodically updated. And we also did an audit recently on the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection's response to price gouging on essential products. You probably heard more about that in the earlier stages of the pandemic. So there's an audit that looked at how they actually tried to enforce rules and prevent price gouging. And essentially what we found is that much of the time they investigated places many days, sometimes weeks after the initial complaints. And most of the complaints of price gouging were not investigated, with some sort of on-site inspector. So the audit is saying that essentially we're not too surprised, and we feel like maybe the department, the agency was not prepared to do this because this was not something that they previously had a huge problem with. They don't necessarily have the staff and capability of investigating all these claims that were happening, especially because of the pandemic. It was a unique circumstance. So the audit is really, the recommendations are more so about how to make sure something like this doesn't happen in the future, and how to be better prepared, with some understanding that we're not too surprised that it played out the way it did. So I'll put that in the chat if you're interested. And that's all. I'll stop there since we're going over time on this segment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, James. Really appreciate it. Does anybody have any questions for James? No, thank you. Thank you for being here, and thanks for the information. Really grateful for the update. See you next time. Okay, so I know that I think Adriana from What Side on the Move is here.
Yes. Hi, everyone.
Hi,
I'm
welcome.
Adriana from What's on the Move. A quick update about the activities that Woodside is doing. We continue having our legal clinic, legal Monte Clinic from the housing department, which is a Zoom, and I will share the flyer on the chat. Also, if we are open 5 days a week, so only by appointment. If you need to speak to someone in the housing department or in Department of Education, just give us a call. And then we have 2 events for March. One is the Easter egg hunt. It's the 3rd year that we are having this event, and we're looking forward to see all the participants in the community. Kids flyers are gonna be distributed starting this Monday. So just keep an eye on our social media. I will share the flyer with the community board too to be distributed. And during the month of April, we also are partnership with a couple of businesses to have our prom pop-up show with our Beacon program. That will be on April 30th. Date, time will be determined in the next couple of weeks. Also, I will share this information with you on the chat. And that's it for what's on the move.
Thank you very much, Adriana. Appreciate that. Any questions for Adriana? Okay, thanks for coming and thanks for the update. And I think Jonathan Miller here is here from Sunnyside Community Services. Oh, there you are. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Thank you very much. Normally we're at Sunnyside, who's the host of this community board. I guess for the time being, obviously we're going to be virtual. I just wanted to let everyone know that we are enrolling people for pre-K. And I just wanted, I guess I was told the other thing is that we're located at 39th Street and Queens Boulevard. And there was a recent burglary or armed robbery, I should say, at the Dollar Tree store. And it's just the staff and wanted to let everyone know, and our executive director, that just in terms of whether it be, hopefully some increased police presence or just concern about safety, in the area. This happened last Sunday, I believe. And that's all I have for today.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. Any questions for Sunnyside Community Services? Well, we'll be in touch. It might be, we might be coming back. We'll see what happens with the governors, whether they extend open meeting suspension or not. And we might be back. So we might see you soon. Thank you. All right. Is there anybody else that I missed? Any other electeds? No? Okay.
Hi, I'm here from Elmhurst Hospital. I put my name in the chat, but I wasn't sure if I had to text you or text everyone.
No, you're our guest speaker, so I was just about.
Oh, I wasn't sure. They told me that I was with the elected after the elected officials.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Yep, we're ready for you.
Oh, okay.
Awesome. So I'm very happy to welcome Helen Ortega, who is am I correct? You're the CEO of Elmhurst Hospital, right?
Yes.
Right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come here, speak to us, update us about Elmhurst. We're looking forward to your presentation, and I know that we'll probably have some meaningful questions from our Health and Human Services Committee, as well as the General Board. So without any further ado, I would love for you have a presentation, right?
No, they just told me that I only had 2 minutes to speak.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah. If I would have known, I would have done I would have bought a video, a whole show, everything.
Oh yeah,
no, we told them you were a guest speaker.
No, Atia just told me that I had 2 minutes to speak.
No.
Oh.
Do you want to just give us an update about what's going on and come back at another time?
Yeah, can I come back next month and show?
Absolutely.
Next month we might have someone already, but so we'll have to look at that. We'll get back to you. Yeah. The 2 minutes is for the general public when they want to come and just speak about anything. We have a guest speaker. Yeah.
Oh,
So
I did find it weird, but I was like, I just thought you guys were,
efficient.
Before it is a little different.
No. We were really looking forward to it. So we'll reschedule this. But if you want to give us an update of what's going on, and still maybe we can get some questions.
So first, I just want to thank all the support from Community Board 2 to our beloved hospital. Elmhurst Hospital, as you know, we were the epicenter, not only in wave 1, but also in this wave 4 with Omicron. But I really want to thank you guys again for supporting the hospital and staying strong with it. We really stood strong with that community, not only for inpatient care, but also for vaccinations and for testing. Just to let you guys know and to be very proud of your hospital. We did over 100,000 vaccinations and tests. We definitely hit a celebration mark of hitting our 100,000 patient vaccinated and our 100,000 patient tested. We're actually up to 100,000 in testing. So we're really excited. It's a way of keeping the community safe. And inpatient, I'm happy to report that our patients while they're coming in very ill. We are taking care of them and we are putting them back in the healing journey again. And we're not seeing the same results we saw during wave 1. And I just wanted to be here and show you guys that I'm here as a resource. If you need me, Clara Londono from my Communities Affairs is on the line as well. But I just really wanted to be here and say thank you. The support during wave 4 and wave 1 was super felt from our hospital and our 4,000 members that we are in our hospital. And I'm just looking forward if you guys have any questions or if you want to see anything in the presentation when I come back. Happy to take any feedback or questions now.
Well, can I just first start and say that during the last wave, I went to Elmhurst several times after they closed down the Northern Boulevard facility, which was my main place. And I was so grateful for that center. And I was so brokenhearted when it closed because it was just so, it was just so clean and efficient and felt safe because outside. And the staff was so experienced and professional and respectful. And it was just, I hate to say it was a wonderful experience because it was, you know, getting all that is just horrible, but it was actually as best as it could possibly be. And when it closed down, I was very upset. And then I tried to go to some local places. I wasn't comfortable with going to the pop-ups, and I've heard that from a lot of people in the community. Not comfortable. And I did go to one pop-up at one time for a PCR, and it was, it took over a week to get the results back. In the meantime, I had gone to Elmhurst Hospital, and you have that special area where you get on the corner of the triangle where you can go in. And I went there several times and it was always very fast. And I did one time have symptoms and they got and it was a PCR, but they got the results in within 4 or 5 hours. And
they're like a world there.
It was so impressive, and everybody, and the way they kind of work it, and everybody was so professional. I was so proud to say this is my city hospital. And I know, you know, Elmhurst Hospital doesn't always, you know, get all the laudatory congratulations that maybe it deserves. But I was grateful for that. And the one thing I would say is I did, the first time I went, I had trouble finding it because I can't remember where I came from, but there were signs on one side of the building, but not on another side. So I wound up walking all around the block. I thought they need a sign there to let people know that it's there, because it's really, you know, it's small and on that corner, but it was so efficient. And the thing that was amazing is down the street from me, a block and a half, was a city MD, and it was a 3-hour wait that I waited one day when I came to you all. It was just so fast. It was so efficient. So I'm grateful for that. I don't want to go on and on. I think I already have, but
I have to tell you, I did get the feedback from the community, and we actually put up signs with arrows.
Yes, that's great.
If we did listen and we put them up. You'll see now long arrows, the kind of, because we're in that weird triangle.
Yes.
Between the parking lot and the hospital. So yes, we heard the community and we were like, we should put arrows.
Thank you. Thank you. I know there's going to be some other questions. So I don't see Sheila now, but I think Sheila was the first one to raise her hand. Sheila, do you still have a question? Maybe not. So Thomas.
All good, thank you.
Okay, Thomas, and then Anatol.
Thank you. So thank you again. I want to express my gratitude. My great aunt is currently under the care in your hospital, and I want to express that during a very tough time, your hospital has been wonderful, and I very much appreciate the care and concern, and it's really made things better. Thank you.
Oh, Thomas, I'm so sorry of what you're going through, but know that we're trying to take care of your loved one and all the loved ones that we serve. But I'll definitely put your great aunt in my prayers.
No, thank you very much. It's been it's made an experience much better. So thank you.
No, thank you for trusting us with your loved one.
Sorry, I was trying to find what that was, but I just want to thank you, Helen, for the same things that Maury talked about, but from the point of view of as a parent of a 2-year-old who tested positive for Omicron in December, just that whole process of, making the experience less miserable for a 2-year-old and less traumatic. The nurses there were awesome. So thank you for that.
No, thank you. There's nothing like the support of the community to make, because it's the long hours that we go through the hospital. They're not easy long hours, but when we hear community feedbacks and when we get the little thank you notes from the community, it really goes a long way.
Thomas, did you have another question? I guess not. Lauren?
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you, first of all, for Clara Lindana. So I'm the chair of the Health Human Services Education Committee, and I just want to thank you for sending Clara Lindana to present at our last meeting. She mentioned in passing about plans to expand the emergency room that she said that you would talk about that when you came. So I don't know if that's.
Yes, I can definitely talk about that.
Okay.
So as you guys know, Elmhurst Hospital has been given funding from, it was a multi-year ask. And we've been able to collect around $43 million to make the ED more bigger for sure, but also to kind of, because when we built the ED was 1960s, and the ED currently right now has 57 pods, when on average we see about 100 people on every given tour. So we're always like trying to squeeze people in. So this expansion will allow us to expand to 100 pods. And not only that, but it will also make, it's a cardiac, we already have a cardiac unit, so we're a level 1 trauma center, but it's gonna take this machine called the LINAC, where basically, if you come in with a cardiac issue, we basically open you up, make sure your heart keeps pumping, but let's say you need surgery, we put you into this machine, which is like a CT scan, and we're able to, on the spot, put in a pacemaker. It will save so many lives. So it's gonna have that in place. It's gonna be like a little donut. You come into the cardiac unit or trauma unit, you get the operation during the CT scan, the LINAC machine, and then you come back breathing and healed to be ready to admit it. So the future of our ED is gonna be beautiful, latest technology for sure. But it's just gonna take us some time. Actually, you guys might be mad at me for a while because all the construction and we are gonna make some noise, but when we get closer to that, I will come back and show you some drawings and how much noise we're gonna make because we have to tear down a portion of the hospital. So you'll see that. And I might have to, I'm trying not to take any parking away. I'm trying to use all the parking spots that we have for the hospital. So that's what I'm trying to do. But once we get closer, I'll definitely come back and give you an update on the phases of the construction, for sure.
Okay. There was one thing I know that someone from the community had asked me, and I'll ask on their behalf. And the question was, in Western Queens, we really don't have a lot of health facilities. Is there any possibility or any plans for Elmhurst to, open a small facility or expand or grow, or is there any budget for that?
So I would love to continue on growing our Gotham facility, which is our federally qualified health center for the public system. Just open a site right there on 73rd and Roosevelt on the second floor. They're a brand new site. So if we go, if we would go a little bit deeper, I think it would be Gotham to open a site there. But if you find us a place, we can go check it out.
I guarantee you there are people on this board that we'll find a place for you and suggest, and
yes,
the health committee can make suggestions, and I'm sure the community will have ideas and thoughts. We have one community member who's a midwife, and she has been so frustrated that so many of her clients have no place to give birth other than in Manhattan? There's no birthing centers nearby.
I think I spoke to her. I'm not sure. But I know I'm working with a midwife on trying to figure out how to get her privileges at Elmer's because they're independent practitioner. But I don't know if it's her. It might could have been someone else, but it's something we are looking into. I don't know if anybody, I have, I've been able to kind of download. I'm hoping this is right, but I think I can show you guys a video. Is that okay?
Yeah, Debbie, can you give her privileges so she can share a screen or whatever?
Yes, of course. Hang on, just give me a minute. Helen, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, hang on, co-host is on its way.
Oh,
You should have
got
it
it.
now.
So let me see if this works. Share my screen.
Ellen, please also share sound if you're going to share video. There should see a little tick mark near the bottom right, bottom left.
Share, where am I looking at?
If you're going to share a video, when you share your screen, also check please to see if you can share sound.
Oh, okay. Okay, share screen. It says everything on your screen. I guess start. I don't think it's letting me.
Oh.
It says everything on your screen, and I'm saying yes, it's okay, but it's not letting me.
No.
But that's okay. Definitely.
Well, you can
I
set,
will-
is it like a public video or?
It's a video that I started making for when I start speaking, where it really shows the amazing work that Elmer's has been doing and really a dedication to the community. And it's about like a 2-minute video. But that's okay. If anything, I'll show it when I come back next, and when I'm able to come back.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank-
But I
Helen,
look
you
forward
have
coming back and
privileges.
showing
I
a
don't
full
know why you
presentation.
don't have it. Helen, you have privileges. I don't know why you can't show your screen.
I don't know, maybe because I'm on my iPad. Sometimes that gets a little tricky. No, and it
Are
says I
you
can
on,
share.
are you on 2 different devices here?
No, it's a bookmark whiteboard.
Does Clara have it?
No, because it's something I've been working on.
Okay.
I think
Well,
it's
you
my
have
iPad.
privileges,
to be
So I have
honest.
no idea.
Yeah, no, it's my iPad. So it's okay.
Okay.
I'll keep you guys in suspense to bring me back.
Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate
No,
it.
thank you
All
so much
board
for
does.
having me.
And we look forward to back.
And supporting my hospital. Thank you. It's our hospital. Thank you so much on behalf of the 4,200 employees that work there.
And thank you for supporting the community.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Now, we are going to move into the public comment section of the meeting. If you have not signed up and you want to speak, make sure you sign up. There's a link in the chat. The first person on our sign up is Mr. William Kregler. You have 2 minutes to speak and Debbie will give a timer. William, are you here? We'll move on to Patricia Malwich, and if William comes back, we'll call on him. Patricia?
Hi,
Hi. Oh, you're on mute. Patricia, you're on mute.
unmute. Okay.
There you go.
Hi. This is my first attendance at one of the meetings, and it's very interesting how this all works. You all seem like real people. The one thing I wanted to bring up, and I'm just learning who's who here. The one thing I wanted to bring up was a air quality condition in Long Island City. There is specifically a neighbor building to me. I live on a residential street, but all around it is commercial and that type of thing. And the air quality in the area is very poor, and that is because of what is going on in a building located at 1040 45th Road. They're producing food for other businesses, but I don't think that they are following any kind of protocols for sanitary stuff, for Department of Building, proper ventilation and that sort of thing. Many neighbors of mine and I have called into 311 and the Department of Buildings for all of these offenses. Does anybody have an idea of what is my next avenue to pursue in terms of getting us some clean air over here? We live across the street from a park. People leave the park because the odor is so offensive. We, don't use our backyards because the odor from this factory is so offensive. I understand it's a commercial and a warehouse area, but it's really out of code, and it's more than just a little bad smell. It's really, I think it's really very unsanitary and unhealthy. And I just don't know what my next or our next avenues to pursue are.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming, Patricia. We welcome you. We're glad. I know that you said this was your first time coming to one of our meetings. Please don't make it your last meeting. Come anytime. We have these every month, and you can come to committee meetings as well. You can find all the information on our website, which is nyc.gov/QueenCB2. The first thing, just to answer your question, and I'm going to hand it over to our district manager, Debbie, because she'll know exactly how to answer you. But the first thing I would say is call the district office as your first step, which is 718-533-8773. 718, I'll put it in the chat, 718-533-8773. I'm going to turn it over to Debbie, but if you're able to look at the chat, I think you're also getting some links from Councilwoman Wan's office to call her office. So I'm going to turn it over to Debbie now.
Call some of the state agencies and have them come and investigate and take a look and follow it up, and Department of Agriculture and OSHA as well. So there are some avenues that we can take city and statewide. So if you give us the exact location, call the office, give us all the information, we'll follow it up for you.
Thank you very much.
And if you prefer, you can also email the office. I'm going to drop the, can someone drop the information in for the phone number and the email address for Patricia, but also for anybody? We really encourage. I know some boards, the first thing they say to you when you call in is, have you called 311 yet? Call 311 and give me your number. Our office is so proactive. If you call and you say you haven't called 311 yet, they will put the call in for you and monitor the complaint number. So we encourage you or anyone else, call the 718-533-8773 number. We're in the process of adding a form to the website, which hopefully will be launched not too distant future, so that people can actually put in complaints online very easily. Does anyone else want to respond to this? Okay, who else do we have to talk? Thank you very much, Patricia, welcome.
Mohammed Hussain.
Oh, Mohammed? Are you still here, Mohammed?
Hello.
Hi.
No, I got my hand because my question was for the CEO of Elmer's, but she left, I think so.
Helen, are you still here? Helen, are you still here? Well, we could forward your question to her if you reach out to us, and we can send the question over to her.
Okay, so the question was, we really appreciate to the doctors, nurse, all administration to the Elmhurst Hospital on behalf of our neighborhood, because I live in just a couple of street from the Elmhurst. I saw the pandemic time and the epic times, how hard work they do. But the problem is the emergency room. Even the children emergency, if you go there, you need to wait there to 3 to 4 hours at least. It doesn't matter what you are, the condition, but the emergency room condition is too really bad. Even I went there a couple of times last couple of years. They don't change anything. So that is my request to be attention in the emergency as well to the other department, they do the job. That is my question.
Thank you. Mohammed, do you mind to either call or email the office?
Yeah, definitely, I will do. Thank you.
Yeah, because that way we'll have it and we can forward it and then get back to you with it.
Yeah, definitely, Chairman. Thank you so much. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
the contact information for us is right in the chat. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you so much. Give me that chat. Bye.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else for public comment? Is that it, Anatol?
That is it. for now.
Okay. So no more public comment. We're moving on to our public hearing. So we have a public hearing right now, which is for the FDNY regarding a modification for the fleet service restoration.
Okay, well, good evening. My name is David Harney. I'm the Chief of Staff to the Deputy Fire Commissioner. It's always a pleasure to testify before Community Board 2. I'm joined this evening by Mark Arenberg, who is our Assistant Fire Commissioner for Fleet Services.
Good evening.
And I was very happy to provide you with the flag. And even better that I still remember how to blouse it when I'm done.
Wow.
So something my father, the Army Colonel, taught me as a small boy. But anyway, I know that you still have a large agenda in front of you, so I'll move as Mark and I will move as quickly as possible through this, and of course we'll be available for any questions you may have. Debbie, may I please get screen clearance?
And you should have it. You have privileges.
Can we do that? Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so again, this is a minor modification to approve an approved land use action for our Bureau of Fleet Services. Fleet Services has a fiscal 2022 budget of almost 300 employees, and they're responsible for planning, budgeting, procuring all fire apparatus, ambulance support vehicles for the department. After they go in service, the Bureau repairs and maintains these vehicles so they can be used in a safe and reliable manner. The command has two primary repair shops in Long Island City, two satellite shops at Fort Todd and Staten Island. Finally, the command stores the agency's inventory of spare fire apparatus at a facility in Greenpoint while maintaining two other vehicle storage lots. Since 2001, the agency's vehicle fleet has increased by almost 40%. A large component of this increase has been in the agency's ambulance inventory, which currently stands at almost 700 vehicles, or slightly less than 25% of our entire vehicle fleet. Since 1996, the city's EMS function has been merged into the fire department. As a result of this merger, the agency assumed control of all EMS operational support facilities. This includes EMS's ambulance and small vehicle repair function, which was at a city-owned site at 55-3058 Street in Queens, and a 52,000 square foot vacant lot, which was leased at 5880 Borden Avenue to store ambulances and EMS command vehicles and vehicles that were going to be commissioned, maintained, repaired, decommissioned, or because they were in an accident, were held pending any type of litigation. Because the agency's lease for its portion of Lot 20 was to expire in March 2001, the agency, working with DCAS, submitted a site selection and acquisition land use application for continued use of this site. And you can see in the top photo, it's the triangular portion of the lot running out to 58th Street. While the proposed action was disapproved by this board, it was approved by the borough president, and after being delayed by the 9/11 attack, was approved by the City Planning Commission in October of 2001. Then, because the City Council's Land Use Committee did not assume jurisdiction within their allotted time period, the action was approved on November 27th, 2001. There's a little background for you. However, while this approved action was advanced due to the adjacency of the city-owned facility, in 2013, and at the direction of the mayor's office, the vehicle repair function was relocated from 5530 58th Street to a lease site at 3003 Review Avenue in Long Island City. The city-owned site was then disposed of via negotiated sale by the city's Economic Development Corporation. However, because the Review Avenue site did not have adequate vehicle storage capabilities, the fire department needed to maintain its use of the portion of the lot that we were using on 58th Street. While the city lease for the Borden Avenue lot will come up for renewal next year, last summer, the remaining portion of the lot was marketed for a new tenant. And here you can see the rendering. You see silhouetted with highlighted orange. This is the lot, but you can also see the fire department's lot, which, as you can look, it says 52,000 square feet of expansion available next year. So this is a cause for concern. So because of this, the agency, with the support of OMB and DCAS, is now working to expand Fleet Services' overall vehicle storage and repair capabilities. Here, the agency, again with DCAS and OMB, is seeking to acquire the remaining portion of Lot 28 to expand Fleet Services capabilities. The 88,000 square foot lot has a 31,600 square foot one-story building with a mezzanine, while the remaining portion of the lot, which is about 57,000 square feet, is vacant and would be used for vehicle storage. The building's ground floor is approximately 26,500 square feet with the 5,000 square foot mezzanine. Built in 1965, this on-grade structure has 26 drive-in vehicle repair bays with 18-foot ceilings with office spaces, locker rooms, crew quarters, and part storage areas. And here you can see the lot while it was used by its private owner, and really what it was being used for was what the fire department envisions. It was being used for vehicle repair and vehicle storage. This proposed action will allow the Bureau of Fleet Services to acquire additional and sorely needed vehicle storage space, significantly expand Fleet Services vehicle repair base, parts storage, and administrative spaces. It will allow us to relocate our sedan and small vehicle repair function from 3003 Review Avenue to this new site. We'll be able to retask 14 repair bays at Review Avenue, currently used for small sedans and small vehicles, to ambulance repair. It's going to open up space at Review Avenue for additional ambulance storage. It's going to increase our productivity, and it's going to reduce our overtime. Because the fire department already has an approved land use action for a portion of the Borden Avenue site, the law department and the Department of City Planning determined, because of the similarity between the current and proposed functions, this proposed acquisition of this additional space may be accomplished via a minor modification to the existing approved land use action. So to complete this modification, the agency must develop the required documentation for a normal land use action. But because it's only a minor modification, the action only requires a letter of support from the affected community board. Therefore, because of the issues in program service and goals of this proposed action, the fire department respectfully requests a letter of support from Queens Community Board 2 for this minor modification to be provided, as this will greatly enhance our vehicle repair, maintenance, and storage capabilities. And with that, Commissioner Arenberg and I will be more than happy to take anyone's question, and I will stop sharing my screen. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Harney. Do we have questions? Wow. Am I missing something? Am I not seeing questions? Okay, there's no questions. All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Harney. You're welcome to stay. we'll have our vote later.
Okay, I'll be more happy to stay.
Okay,
Thanks,
Thank-
folks.
thank you
Thank
very much. Okay, we're gonna move on to our next, which is Department of Transportation revocable consent for 5203 Center Boulevard.
And good evening, everyone. I'm John McMillan with TF Cornerstone, and we are here in connection with a DOT revocable consent application for flood barriers at this site. I'm here with Bob and Cody, my colleagues. Cody, could you share the screen, please?
Yep. Could I please have approval to share my screen?
Cody, just give me one moment.
Yep, take your time.
Sorry.
All good.
This site is at Hunters Point South, where we've just completed 2 buildings. It's 66% affordable, and we have 100 low-income senior units at the site. And so Self-Help is our not-for-profit partner at this site. So this is a view of the site. So the 2 tall towers, the furthest to the south, are the site that we're talking about. And so just a little background here. Hunters Point South was a city project where they built the infrastructure, and they put in all new streets, and they were able to build the new streets up at higher elevations, approximately elevation 11, 12. But on the back side of the project, 2nd Street, they were not able to raise 2nd Street because that was an existing street. It had existing sewers underneath it, and there were buildings on the other side of the street. So it was impossible to raise that street. So that street is down at elevation about 6. So Center Boulevard over on the water is at 11, 2nd Street's at 6. And so our buildings are kind of built on this hill between Center Boulevard and 2nd Street. So elevation 6 and 2nd Street is well below the floodplain. Center Boulevard is above the floodplain. So essentially the eastern half of our buildings, in particular the larger tower to the north, kind of fall into this floodplain. So what you do in this situation is you set the ground plane for the entire building up above the floodplain. So the ground floor of this building is up at elevation 13, but that would mean that your retail stores on 2nd Street would be 6 or 7 feet above the street, which is obviously a horrendous urban condition. So we wanted to do everything that we could to bring the retail down to grade on 2nd Street so you could just walk in off the sidewalk. But that means that you're in the floodplain and you're creating retail spaces that are vulnerable to flooding. And the big hit for us, by the way, is enormous insurance costs to do that. But we are also required to provide a flood barrier in the event of flooding. So Cody, go to the next screen, please. So here is a site plan. So we have the 2 towers, one in the north, one in the south. And you can see on the north tower, there's kind of a big space on the right along 2nd Street. So that is a big retail space that's going to be a kind of a food market. I think it's called Luminescent Market. But all of those entrances into the store are below the floodplain. And so we have to find a way to create a barrier to protect those entrances into the building in the event of a flood. And we can only do that in the public sidewalk. We were required to build this building out to the property line with mandatory street walls. So these flood barriers have to be in the public sidewalk. And so what we need from DOT is permission to just strengthen the sidewalk, make the concrete thicker so that it can hold these flood barriers that only go out, in the rare event of this extreme flooding and then immediately come back in. So I'm now going to pass off to Bob Laudenschlager, our architect for the site, who will just talk a little bit about the building codes that are requiring us to do this. Bob?
Sorry about that. I was unmuted. Yeah, good evening, everybody. Happy to be here. Bob Laudenschlager from SLCE Architects. I just wanted to touch a little bit about just briefly about the code requirements and why we had to do what John had mentioned we had to do. Essentially, the building itself is designed and constructed in conformance with the New York City Building Code and the New York City flood resistance legislation, which was passed in 2014, both of which reference the flood elevations, which are determined by FEMA, which is essentially the flood level that John had mentioned. Due to the relatively low site elevations on the east side, as John had mentioned, we're required to locate, we had to locate the first residential floor above the flood elevation. That being the case, it's above the street and the sidewalk for a large portion for actually the entire site. But we are permitted to have the Second Street retail at the sidewalk level on the east side, which is down at the elevation 6, well below the flood, as John had mentioned. The New York City Building Code requires that all exit points from the building lead directly onto the sidewalk, as well as retail frontage be protected with dry flood proofing. And that is the temporary flood barriers that John had mentioned, which get put in place in the flood event when a flood event is expected. This provides a safe area for people to get out of the building and retail spaces. Essentially, it creates a safe space that is out in the sidewalk, which the water, when it floods, cannot get into, and it allows people to get out and be rescued from there. In that case, the system would be installed in the case of prior to a flood. And our particular building has one such location up on Borden Street, which is a means of egress from the residential building, as well as the entire retail space along Second wrapping Borden. So then the system would be installed on those. The sidewalk requires additional structure for this system to resist the water flood pressure. So when you install these panels, which go up to the flood elevation of elevation 12 to 13, you're going to have going down to 6. You can see that you'll have on Second, it's going to be it's relatively tall. And if the flood does come in, it requires a certain amount of strength to support and take the water resistance pressure against these panels. So that's why the sidewalk itself needed to be reinforced to take such loads. Now, when the system is not in place, once the flood recedes, or even as it stands now, there are sleeves that are in the sidewalk, which the system gets attached to. And when that gets removed, the system comes with caps that protect the holes from the system, so it protects the public. So if we need, Cody from IV5 is also on board on the line as well. If he was in the last community board when this was presented, and he has the information that he had shown then.
So I guess we wanted to ask you all, do you want us to go back through the full revocable consent application that we presented last time? Or just maybe take questions?
Let me comment on that, John. I mean, this was really very surprising to us when we saw it at community board at the land use meeting. And, we haven't seen these measures before on these waterfront sites. So is this something new being required, subsequent to prior Hunters Point South buildings being built, or is this unique to this site?
No, it's required due to the legislation, the New York City flood resilience legislation that was issued after the Sandy hurricane, and the floods. So this was new. We were also part of the buildings that happened further north, up in the Queens West area, and they were not required there.
But you'll obviously be seeing it, with the remaining buildings to the south.
That's correct.
Okay, so I mean, I personally don't think we need to go back through the whole revocable trust, but I think we should take questions.
Yeah, I'm going to recognize Christine, Kenny, then Nick, and I will start there. Christine? Oh, you're on mute.
Hi, I'm Christine Hunter, co-chair of the Land Use Committee with Lisa. Thank you very much for coming and giving us, I understand much better now, what spaces are being protected by this, that it's not the residential lobby. My real question is about, you mentioned that there were egress stairs coming out below the floodplain, which surprises me.
Well, just to be clear on that, Christine, is if you could actually, if Cody, you could point to the center line right up in the center, kind of coming off Cody, just to the left of that, right there, right to the right, 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 to right there, right to the left of that tree.
The first tree.
That first tree. So if you look inside the plan here, the lobby has the revolving door, which is to the west.
Right, yeah, I see that.
Yeah, so there is a means of egress that comes out that point where the hand is located. And you can see that there's actually a ramp which brings the people out from elevation 12 out, which is the lobby elevation, which is a foot above FEMA elevation. And there's a ramp that you need two means of egress out of a residential building, one of which comes out through the main lobby. The other one comes out down that ramp and out. And what we're going to have is there's actually a rectangular safe, these flood barriers, let's call it a flood fence, if you may, which is going to create a rectangular space out on the sidewalk, which is going to go up to the height of the floodplain, up to elevation 12. And when people, in the case of an emergency, they would go out there, they would go out, and normally most people would be leaving before the flood event occurs. But if people are still in the building for some reason, or after these flood barriers are installed at an early time before the flood, people can still get out there. They go into this rectangular fenced-in area, if you may. The fence is really a flood barrier. It's a heavy gauge metal structure. And from there is a set of stairs which they can walk up and over the top and down to the safe part of the sidewalk. If in the event somebody is still in the building for some reason during the flood, they can get out there and they're in a safe area where the water cannot get to, because this flood barrier actually keeps the water out of that area. And people then could be rescued via boat or something to that effect.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just surprised if it's a life safety egress that they're not coming out of the building at a higher, in other words, that there aren't steps. There isn't some kind of platform above the floodplain outside the building, which would keep them safer than flood barriers, which you can't be sure are going to work. But
we have to bring them out to the level of the sidewalk ultimately.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I guess if the code allows what you're doing, in any case, thank you very much for coming back and showing us this, because I understand the building. I think it's much clearer what the system is doing.
Excellent. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Christine. Kenny?
Hi, John. How are you?
Good, Kenny. How are you?
Very good. Thank you. I'm just curious, if you were not to get approval for this, what would your alternative be?
Well, the thing is that this is required by the New York City Building Code. It would be contrary to code, which obviously is something that we can't have.
So you're saying that it can only be incorporated on the public property?
That is correct, because there are street, as John had mentioned, There are street wall requirements on the property line which front the sidewalk. And this is the only way you can get out of the back of the building. We do have the one other way to go through the lobby and out the front, which is possible. And people can get out that way because you're getting out onto Center Boulevard, which is high. So there are no flood barriers on that side. But by code, we need to provide, even in a case of an event like that, we still need to have 2 ways out. Just in case you had a smoke event or a fire event in the lobby, people have to be able to get out a different way.
So was this an oversight in planning?
Well, no, this wasn't an oversight in planning. This is a as of right solution. This is an
No, I guess I'm trying to figure out why. I mean, it seems like it was not known and it's kind of come up now, or maybe I'm not following.
No, I think we're just going through the process that is now required for this.
Okay, I understand. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Kenny, just to let you know that this was always in the design and it went into the DOB in that way. Yeah.
So it's kind of, I guess it's kind of strange that you have a DOB requirement that you have to get approval from the DOT for, or, but.
Well, DOT governs the sidewalk.
Right. No, I understand that.
So
But it's strange. So the building is complete or almost complete?
Building is
Yes.
complete.
It's just strange that this consent is coming up at this point in the process rather
that's
than at the
correct.
time
Yeah.
of DOB
Right.
approval.
That's what I'm getting at.
So, I mean, essentially, is this building overbuilt? So
No.
if you had known about this previously, you would have had to have had these mitigation measures on your private property. But because the build is built to the lot line, you have them in the street. This isn't making sense. And what your answers will inform future buildings here. So it's important that we know.
I think you're going to find that this is going to be pretty standard for waterfront developments.
Right, but I guess the question that's being asked is, why would it not be incorporated into the actual building footprint? Are you saying that's because it's required to be beyond the street wall?
Well, then you wouldn't be able to build buildings to their property lines and you wouldn't have kind of normal urban conditions.
Yeah, but
You know,
you
you
have
want this- you don't-
mitigation
you want the
measures
retail.
within the.
You want the retail, adjacent to the sidewalk. You don't want like a stupid little plaza.
Right. So I
Well,
guess
you
I'm
could
wondering
set
if,
back you could set back the retail from the
right.
sidewalk line. I mean, and request a in other words, if it's really a hazard, in the floodplain, you could request a variance from the street wall requirement so that you could incorporate a ramp on the property.
We could have, yes, but I mean, would that be desirable to recess the building all the way around the property so that the retail wasn't adjacent to the sidewalk?
well, financially, you would lose some sellable area, so it would not be desirable from that point of view. From a design point of view, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that particularly. There are a lot of views about whether sidewalls are a good thing or not. In terms of it all being right up against the property line. But I think what we're all just trying to get to is have a basis for going forward, since this is in a way seems like, I don't think there's a way we can actually prevent this, and it's not our desire to. It's just more we're trying to understand it and get a better handle on it.
Sure.
It might be nice to hear from DOT, because they're the ones who are kind of creating the requirements.
So, I just want to also announce the fact that I'm feeling kind of blindsided by this, given that it's kind of, there's a lot of value judgments that you've made about where you want, whether there should or shouldn't have been a plaza, whether the shop space should have been at grade or higher. My only question is, where are these things going to be kept and how often do you think that they'll need to be used?
They're stored inside the building. And Cody, do you know what it is that triggers the installation? I think we get an official notice from New York City that there's going to be a storm of a certain caliber. And we have 12 hours to get these things out. Is that right, Cody?
Yes, my understanding that the Office of Emergency Management issues a warning 72 hours before an extreme storm event, and typically other buildings that have these flood mitigation systems wait till between 12 and 24 hours to actually implement construct their flood mitigation wall. So this is a mullion and core log assembly flood mitigation measure. And it typically lasts for the duration of the storm until there is no chance for flooding within the building.
No threat for another flood. Yeah.
And beyond what you're doing in the sidewalk mitigations that you're talking about doing are not going to reduce the sidewalk area, or and the storage of these units are not going to be on public space at all, correct?
No, it's just we're strengthening the sidewalk. We're strengthening the depth of the concrete to support the weight, that these barriers will incur when that water is pressing on them. And when there's no flood, you don't see anything.
Yeah, we're a standard sidewalk thickness of 5, I believe it's 5 inches. It would not be able to take that type of pressure from the water. It would actually fail.
All right, thank you very much.
Sheila.
Yes. Hello, guys. Hi, John.
Hi, Sheila.
So a couple things, and kind of circling back to things that Lisa said and some of the other questions that were being asked. As you knew, the code was from 2014. So what would, forget the fact we are where we are, and basically we can say no, and then DOT and DOB and you guys can work it out, but at least might be sending a message forward that people can't not consider these things when they're developing, which includes on their own private property. But it would be helpful to know, had you incorporated it into your private property, how wonderful that stupid little plaza would have been for everybody. So what would it have looked like had you incorporated it, first of all? And then the other thing is, it would be nice to see a visual of what it looks like when it's operating, because it does come out onto, the sidewalk. And so although it's stored inside, the issue isn't necessarily the strengthening of the sidewalk, but how it comes out onto the sidewalk and therefore does block potentially blocks other things once it's activated. But to Lisa's point, I just want to stress it again. What we say, and it sounds like you guys are, work it out with the city, but does affect going forward, making a point to say that this is something that needed to be incorporated. Since you guys are the private sector, you're supposed to know better than everybody. You knew the rules from 2014.
Well, but we're just following the zoning, and if the community board feels that the zoning should be adjusted to accommodate this sort of thing, maybe that's something you should consider. But, the zoning requires that we build this building to these street lines.
And we could have done it. I'm sorry, go ahead, Lisa.
No, I'm sorry. We've been talking about flood mitigation measures in this neighborhood for 20 years at least. And I think that, you as a developer are more than aware of the dangers. And it surprises all of us that you weren't proactive enough to consider this in your original design, and subsequent to the building being fully built at this point in time, you're going back and saying, oh my, we have to install flood mitigation measures. So we are just gobsmacked. We are just shocked that this is happening at this point in time. And that, after all these years of talking about flood mitigation measures all over the waterfront with you and your architectural firms, that this is coming up now. Because I think that you as developers and architects have been well aware. And I get that maybe in your original design it wasn't so, but it is really shocking to us that you didn't consider it.
Well, I think that we always assumed that this was the solution.
I think it's important, John, also to mention is if we zoom out on the plan that that the developer did create a tremendous plaza on their site. So there's
Yeah.
a very large plate, all that green space is there for public use. So just to kind of get back, they
That's
did.
not the point. We're talking about flood mitigation, that the building wasn't built.
Excuse me. I just want to step in. I just have to ask one question. John, you just said that, and hello, John, you just said that you assumed that you were always going to do it this way.
I think that's correct. I think that we always believed that we would have to do flood barriers around the vulnerable portions of this site that were below the floodplain. And it was assumed that this was how we would do it.
So why wasn't it part of the original? That's why I'm confused. Maybe I'm missing something. If you always.
It was part of the, it was part of our original thinking that this was going to be how we were going to protect the retail below the floodplain. We would install these temporary barriers and then take them back in.
All right, I'm
sorry, but it never really occurred to me personally that there was any other way to do it.
Maury, can I ask one more question?
Yeah, and then we're going to Danielle.
Okay. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Danielle, go ahead. I didn't mean to jump.
I can be quick. So if I understand correctly, you're reinforcing the sidewalk, which is public space. Are you getting any kind of tax incentive or tax break or funding from the city to do this?
To do what?
To the flood mitigation?
No.
Okay.
It costs money to apply for revocable consent. There's actually an annual fee that the developer has to pay to New York City.
And then to do the work, because you're doing work, right? Like you're going to do work for that. That work is you're paying for that?
Yes, we pay for all of this, yes.
Christine?
Yeah, so I mean, I hear you saying that, you've assumed since 2014 or whenever the regs went into effect that this is how you were going to solve the problem. But to my knowledge, in New York City, these flood barriers are a relatively new technology, and they're certainly less safe than being, above the floodplain when you get out of the building, or having a safe area outside the building to be above the floodplain when you exit. So do you know of many other examples of this type of technology that have actually worked in flood events to date? Because I haven't really seen them in action, and I'm curious how tried they are.
But so before we answer that, the alternative to this would have been to build the retail above the floodplain and have it be 7 feet off the sidewalk. And we just thought that that would be horrible. So we're into this because we're trying to create retail that you can walk directly into from the elevation of the sidewalk. So Bob, do you know anything about where else this has been done? Or Cody?
No, I know here, I'm not quite sure. There are some areas down near Canal Street, but that I had put them in a number of years ago. That's when it was relatively new. But there are some conditions. But this code for the dry flood proofing came out in the 14 code. It wasn't before that.
So the buildings where you've put them in before, have they actually been in a flood event where they've functioned?
I don't have the answer to that because I did not see it. I did not personally go down to see it, quite honestly.
I think we have them in our buildings in Lower Manhattan, and there has not been an event yet to test them.
So it is a pretty untried technology.
In our
This
office
is,
down.
Sorry, Cody, this is Joe Menzer. I also work with Cody and NV5. These types of technologies are actually in use all over the city. NYU has included them throughout all their buildings in Manhattan now, through all their loading docks that are below at grade level. Those are slightly different only in the fact that they're automated. They are hydraulically moved into place, but they are essentially the exact same thing. They are flood walls that lay flat on the sidewalk, and then they are hydraulically lifted into place, sealing off NYU's hospital for a flood event. And Bellevue is in the process right now of designing their own system to protect their hospital as well. So these are very common types of applications. The New York City DOT is actually also in conjunction with EM spending $1.2 billion on East Side coastal resiliency. And they include a number of these types of measures all along the east side of Manhattan. BMCR, which is Brooklyn Bridge to Montgomery coastal resiliency, is putting in almost 1.5 miles of flip-up gates along the waterfront as well to protect Lower Manhattan. And we are currently, NV5, designing the flood protection system for all of the Red Hook neighborhood. And that will incorporate a number of these features as well. So this is very common technology here in New York City right now.
Well, it's a common technology going forward that many people are adopting it, but so far it isn't very I'm not hearing that there are examples where it's actually worked in a flood event, but
there are lots of examples outside of New York City. A lot of this stuff has been installed or has been installed or will be installed as a result of Hurricane Sandy. But a lot of this material has been installed in Louisiana and other areas in the South where storms that happened before Sandy did devastate those areas. And so they are ahead of us in the installation of these types of procedures.
Mary?
So I do apologize. Do you have renderings or photographs of these that you can share again, just to bring everyone,
Sure, so I can
kind of reacquaint everyone?
run through. I just kind of,
That's a blueprint drawing. I'm asking for renderings.
We don't have a rendering at.
Yeah, I just think that renderings would have been very helpful because people, I know how to read a blueprint. Most lay people do not. I think developers use renderings all the time, as you know. I just think renderings would have been really helpful here to understand how far they're going in to the sidewalk, what they look like aesthetically. Obviously, in the event of a major flood, nobody's going to be around. The idea is that you're out of the area in those 12 hours and that flood mitigation isn't necessarily needed to protect people in so much as it is to protect your property. Because if it's flooding that much, there probably would be an evacuation order by the city. But can you go back to the last elevation that you had up? Okay, so if the top left rather.
Yeah.
So that's basically what you'd be looking at as far as like the sidewalk, and then how many feet is that up, that particular flood wall?
in a deployed position, so in a flood condition, yes.
Or
this is what
pre-flood
it would-
condition, right? Like, obviously this is going up before the flood would
Yeah,
come.
yeah,
right?
12 to 24 hours or whenever the building deploys it. But these are relatively, it's pretty
So
high.
how far out onto the sidewalk are they coming
Let me open.
approximately? Are you talking inches? Are we talking feet? Are we
It's
talking-
feet. Yeah. Let me go into
Yeah, I'd say it's probably going to, it goes out approximately 5 feet roughly.
So essentially the whole part, like basically the whole width of the sidewalk, everything.
Less than half.
Yeah,
Less than half, okay.
there's a roughly 12-foot sidewalk, roughly.
Okay, because I think what you're seeing in the chat is what most people have noticed so far in the buildings that are along the waterfront are the 3 to 4 foot steel barriers that are kind of that are adjacent or flush up against doors and things of that nature is what we're seeing on 46 and Vernon and at City Lights.
I think we're lower here. So-
Yeah, I know, and I get that, you are lower, but I guess what I'm just trying to bring to everyone's attention is just, the size and scope of that we're talking here. Is, are you talking, something that's gonna jet out 5 feet onto a sidewalk and up potentially up to 5 to 10 feet high?
I believe it goes up to, I think, 7 feet.
7 feet.
That's on the lowest point of the site, yeah, down on Second Street. As you go up, head west on Borden, and that goes up, it would be significantly less. But that's a very small piece of the more intention, the more that you see is going to be wrapping the retail, protecting the retail.
Got it. Okay, in the event of a flash flood situation where you may not have 12 hours notification, how long does it take to erect, approximately, how much time is it, would it take the building to erect this wall?
Yeah, I really don't know that.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the timeline, and I guess it depends on how.
Well, I
many
mean, if you're getting 12 hours notice and it takes 13 hours to put all this together, we have a problem, but yeah, I would imagine that the engineers of this particular wall probably have some kind of an estimate. Obviously, the first time you're putting it up is going to take a little longer, but the second, third time, you know, what kind of drills or practice will your facilities department have in erecting this?
Well, that's right. I mean, our building management staff has to practice doing this, and we have not done that, but we have to learn how to do all this stuff because it's new to us as well.
Okay, that's all right. I'm done with my questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Nick?
So just a couple of questions about the actual construction that lays before us. Is this going to create a big blockade of our public sidewalk here during the reinforcement of the sidewalk itself? Like, how long is that construction going to take?
Yeah, it would impose on the sidewalk, and as part of the revocable consent process, we had to develop maintenance and protection of traffic plans for pedestrians to navigate around the flood mitigation system if you were going to walk around in a storm event.
Got it. I'm not talking about during a storm event. I'm talking about literally the construction that's coming up to implement the changes you're requesting.
Yeah, so we have to build these sidewalks in connection with the construction of the building, and it's essentially going to be the same process, except the concrete will be a little thicker.
Okay.
In these areas.
And those mitigation efforts, as we as we see them on a day-to-day without any flooding, is that going to impact mobility on these sidewalks at all, especially for folks with altered ability to move or anything like that?
No, it will not.
No.
Okay. No. And so just to restate, have you made a decision on where you're putting these stores to 6 feet above the ground or at grade, to enable easier access to those stores, perhaps also for people with altered mobility?
Yes, we've made the decision to build the retail at the level of the existing sidewalk.
Okay. And based on sort of the latest statistics on flooding, how often are these things going to be used?
Anybody's guess.
I don't know. Cody?
So there has not been a flood situation from a coastal storm since Sandy.
Sandy, right.
There's been Ida was a very different type of flooding situation that was from a rainstorm. So Sandy was the last major coastal storm where flooding has occurred in any major way in New York City.
Okay, thank you.
I think, was it Lisa or Christina? I think Lisa was next.
I just have a quick question. What exactly do you need from us? And are there, if you don't mind answering, what other flood mitigation measures are associated with this building?
So we essentially need letter of approval or no objection to be sent to New York City DOT franchise unit that handles the revocable consent application.
If we don't provide that, would they issue it any? I mean, it's your conversation with them. It's not ULURP. You need it for your C of O. Is that correct?
Oh, we probably need it for the retail. Right,
for the
Bob?
retail C of O?
We need it for, I believe we'd need it for the DOB sign off of the sidewalk itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And but to answer the second, Lisa, to answer your second part of your question, the other large thing that we had put into the design, which is required for the best for the building, is to raise the building up to the minimum, actually a little bit higher, like a foot higher than what the FEMA requires, and that's to get the building up high enough so that it so to lessen the possibility of flooding.
So the building was raised a little higher. You have the permeable open space there as well, right?
Yes.
That's up high at the level of Center Boulevard.
The open space.
Yes.
And can I ask, are all the mechanical systems in the building raised above that level as well?
Yes.
So there's no electrical equipment or any of that? That's all above the flood level?
Everything's up above the flood level, yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure.
Sheila, did you have a question?
I do.
Yeah,
I'll defer to Kenny because I think he's probably going to say some of the same things I was going to say.
Oh, I don't know. Go ahead, Sheila.
No, I mean,
Oh, well, no, actually, I was just going back to something I brought up before. You know, again, and this is not even necessarily for this building. It's more for my information going forward, although it could apply to this building. When I was saying, why couldn't this be incorporated into the footprint of the building? The answer was that you'd have to pull the building back. But in my naive thinking, I envisioned that this could be within the egress, within any entrance. What would be the impediment to just simply having it be incorporated into natural entrances?
Well, because it's the entrance itself that is the point of vulnerability. Right, and so that's what we're protecting here. That and the storefront glass, I think, are what are vulnerable.
That's correct.
But you're going to see in this image, the school is down at the bottom of the screen. You're going to see a 7-foot high solid wall with no penetrations in it, and that's how they're dealing with it. That's the way to deal with it on site.
Right. I guess I'm just saying that, you know, what would be, if I have an entryway, I mean, typically the actual doors are set back a little bit from the street wall. And it seems to me that there would be room in that space. Again, this is naive thinking. I'm not an architect. I'm just trying to understand why that kind of design couldn't come about.
Well, it could, but even if you were to push you have to push it in considerably. Because you need to have you'd want to have that space of refuge, which I was mentioning below. So once they got out of the building, that they be able to get up and out. And each one of these barriers, as I think I mentioned it earlier, there's actually a stair, which with railings to allow somebody, once they are installed, to get out.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So you'll see
So if you're in the store in a wheelchair, you're gonna have trouble getting out.
Yeah, you'll have to have diving equipment available.
So the only thing, you know, coming back to earlier questions is like, coming back to alternatives in advance, had they been done? Like the idea of saying, yes, you have to build to the edge of the footprint. Personally, I don't mind the stores being 7 feet up. We have them on Jackson Avenue, parts of Tribeca are some of my favorite places to walk around where things are elevated because mostly because they had trucks that would go into those loading zones and stuff.
Yeah.
But that was an aesthetic choice. And I think
Yeah.
that we're in a new time where we have flooding, and we've had a number of flash floods in addition to Ida in the past year, including in this area, some of which I trudged through with 3 feet of water trying to help people. And so I know they keep happening. So it's not just the severe storms, we're having them more and more and more often. So knowing that as you're planning, I just wonder, there must have been other ideas that you guys discussed. I have a hard time believing you're so creative. You guys have so many smart people in the room. What were the other ideas that were discussed? In addition to elevate the storefronts, and so maybe your entrances are set back, but you're building to the property line. Maybe you have a ramp that goes up there so that you have for people in wheelchairs. There must have been other ideas that were discussed.
At other sites, we have considered what you just described, the sort of the Tribeca loading dock ramp that you would go up and then you would enter retail off of that. But we just didn't think that that was appropriate at this site. And there wasn't, you know, that wasn't the best urban condition to create here.
Okay, so that it was an aesthetic choice that, but to me, part of my question isn't just about aesthetics then. Is it more bang for the buck on the square footage? Because if you did that, you would lose some square footage.
If you created this elevated ramp on the property,
You're losing ceiling height, you're losing, you're losing, I mean, in the end, I guess to me, is that really the reason?
Is it, I mean, it's true, we're trying to make this retail as viable as we can.
And your development, that's not a bad thing, that's what you do.
Well, we're trying to attract a good retail store to this location. And so you need to have a store that works for the retailer and that people are going to want to go into, right? You're trying to normalize this situation as much as possible.
This was
Create
helpful
a
to hear
normal
because
urban condition was the goal.
Yeah, it says to me there were other options. That's part of what I'm hearing. And so I appreciate your honesty in that one. Thank you.
John, why is, when Cody, I guess it was Cody, came to the land use committee, this looked as if it was an application from Self-Help Housing Development Corporation. Is Self-Help the I don't understand. Tell us the relationship between you and Self-Help in this particular request.
They are our not-for-profit partner on the North Tower. They have a presence in the North Tower. They will be providing services for the 100 senior citizen units on site.
And how is this mitigation measure going to help the tenants who, whoever they're as a service provider, their clients? Is it going to help them at all?
By having retail that they can walk into easily? I'm not
So
sure.
it's all about the retail you can walk in. It doesn't affect their facility at all.
No, not at all. Not that I can see, no. The residential building is not really affected by this. It's just really the retail on 2nd Street.
Thank you. Christine, did you have another question or you just have your hand up?
No, I should have taken my hand down, I think.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? Okay, we're gonna move on. What? Did I hear something?
No, we'll vote on this during land use.
Okay, yeah, I think, just to echo Mary's point, about the renderings, I think some of the questions that came up were because some folks, it wasn't clear what was going on, and because, the visuals maybe weren't as helpful as they could be. And, I wonder if this was in a different circumstance and wasn't something that had to be required, whether that beautiful, gorgeous renderings would have been.
Yeah, I apologize for that. I think you're right.
It just helps you make your point.
Yeah,
I think, better when
absolutely.
you have so I think that is definitely a point. And I had a question, but I think Sheila kind of got it answered in the last question, which was this the only solution, or was it the best solution? I guess best is subjective, because which perspective are you looking at? Is it the community, the public, the residents, the developer? And so I guess some of those are, but obviously something has to be done, because flooding is a way of life now in this city. It's part of our lives.
I'm sorry, I have one more question.
Oh, Lisa, I'm not finished.
How long is it? Did you answer the question about how long it's going to take? How long is the construction going to take of the sidewalk?
To just construct the 18-inch thick concrete sidewalk.
Yeah, from now until it's complete. You have to go to DOT, you have to get their consent, then you're gonna, is it 2 weeks or is it 3 months?
This is, I would say, less than a week to do this.
But first you have to get DOT consent, right?
I believe so, apparently, yeah.
And John, if we don't vote for it the way it is, does that mean you go back and have to come up with a new way, or?
I don't know, you guys, you know, this is new to us as well, unless Bob or Cody knows.
I don't know what we would do.
I don't know what DOT does.
Sure how DOT would handle it. I don't know.
Okay, all right. All right, I think that's, who's Sean? Somebody named Sean has their hand up.
Sorry, it's me, Sean Sutton with the Strong Foundation. I
You're
just
not on
want,
the- I don't
Sean,
think-
this is
No,
only for the board, only the board can.
oh, I apologize.
No problem. No problem. But we would love to hear your feedback if you want to contact the board office. If you, someone can drop in the contact information for Sean. Thank you. Okay. I think that's it, right? Anybody else? All right. Thank you, John. Thank you, Cody.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, so we are going to move to attendance. I'm going to do it right and do attendance first now. So let's do attendance.
Ross, you have to unmute.
Yeah, no, I was unmuting myself. So are we ready for attendance? Amparo Abel Bay, Abel Bay,
Present.
Anatole Ashraf,
Present.
Garisha Batan,
She had to charge her device and is coming back on, but she had to like drop off to charge her device.
okay, well, we could try calling them, but I also saw that she was participating. Nicholas Berkowitz,
Here.
Sandra Bagichka,
Here.
Kat Bloomfield,
Here.
Danielle Brecker,
Present.
Johanna Carmona, absent, Janet Serbone,
Absent.
absent, Tanya Chavez,
Present.
Osman Chowdhury,
I did my video off.
okay, Stephen Cooper,
He's absent.
absent. Is he, if any of
He's
these.
excused.
He's excused, yes, I want to know the difference. Okay, Warren Davis,
He's excused.
okay, Jake DeGroot,
Here.
Lisa Deller,
Here.
Sally Frank,
Just
Yep.
I saw Sally before. Sally's on here. Sally, you
I see
here?
her. She's here.
Yep, I'm good.
okay, Maury Gallinoy,
Here.
William Garrett,
He was on earlier and had to leave.
so does that make him absent?
Yes, you have to be here for the attendance.
Okay, Somnath Gamir, absent.
Absent.
I'm here, Camille Gray,
Here.
Kenneth Greenberg,
Here.
Benjamin Gutman,
Here.
Christine Hunter,
Here.
Mohammed Chowdhury Jewel,
Here.
Badrun Khan, absent.
Absent.
Sheila Lewandowski, I saw you.
She's here. She's on mute. She's waving.
Present.
Okay, Dominic Lapolis, absent. Kristen McGowan,
I'm here.
Thomas Matuzis,
Present, thank you.
Clara Oza,
I'm here.
oh, good. Elliot Park,
Absent.
absent. Carla Perez,
Here.
Stephen Raga,
Here.
Selena Romero,
Absent.
absent. Catherine Sabal, Absent. Norberto Saldana.
Oh,
You're here.
Norberto's here.
Norberto? Good.
I'm here.
Yeah, hi, okay, and Regina?
Here. Is on the phone, yes.
Okay, good. Hold on a minute. Let's see. Laura Shepherd,
She's excused.
okay. Lauren Springer, I saw you.
Here. I'm here.
Torres,
I would love us to start from the back next time. Mary Torres is here.
okay. Anthony Tudela
Here.
and John Vicunis. Absent. Frank Wu,
I'm here. Hello.
hello, and I would say we have a quorum.
Yes.
All
Agree.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roz. All right, so I want to officially move us out of the public section of the meeting and we're officially entering the business session. This is this part where the board members will review, deliberate, and vote on agenda items. The public is welcome to observe, but we are not allowing participation, obviously. But you're welcome to stay and observe. So the first thing now is to approve the February minutes. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the February minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Sheila.
Second, please. Oh, sure. Okay, thank you.
Who,
Amparo first.
Amparo
of
and
course,
Sheila is second.
thank you.
Is anybody opposed to approving the minutes? Seeing no opposition? Minutes.
Who's abstaining?
I don't think anyone is. I was just confirming that there were no abstentions.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so it's unanimous.
Thank you, Debbie. Okay. So now we'll move into my report. First off, you know, we're always, this is a community, and like a community, you know, we recognize the good things and the serious things in our lives. And we want to take a moment to say that our thoughts are with Dr. Roz. As many of you already know, her son had a serious accident, and we just want to recognize the loss to the IS 78 community. He's a music teacher for a very long time and a cherished member of the community. Roz encourages people to check out his website, mrgmusic.com, MISTERG music.com. And we hope that he'll be able to return sometime soon to his other activities. Thank you for thinking of Mr. G.
Thank you, Maury. Thank you very much.
I know it must be very hard, Roz, so we're here for you.
Thanks.
Along with Debbie, we attended the LIC bid board of directors meeting. We did some other business, including I was at the Build the Block meetings for the 108 precinct. Also, this Sunday, as many of you already know, it's finally back, the St. Pat's Parade for all, this Sunday, March 6th at 1 p.m. on Skillman. There'll be assembling at noon. I think that's the staging, and then 1 p.m. the parade begins. If you've never been to St. Pat's for All, it is an amazing experience. It's warm and welcoming. Hopefully we'll have good weather. I think it's especially poignant right now because I just remember at the last one, it was, you know, it was like the last event before everything shut down, closed up. We lost some valued members of the St. Pat's for All community and committee, and it was a very difficult time. And last year it was virtual. It's not the same when it's virtual. We all know that. There are clearly benefits to some things virtual, but it's now going to be back on in full regalia. So we hope to see you there, and we hope that it marks a return to normalcy on some other levels as well. Also, I want to remind people, we are building a newsletter, a digital newsletter, and the engagement and inclusion committee with the tech committee are working on our first issue. If you don't want to miss it, be sure to sign up. You can do it on our website. There's a link in the top, on the middle right, no, the far right, that says sign up for the newsletter, but you can also go to the link that Anatole just posted to sign up immediately. Also, we encourage you, this meeting is live streamed on YouTube. I say this all the time, but we got 55 subscribers. We're building it slowly but surely. Once we get 100, we'll be able to get our short URL. So we'll be like youtube.com QueenCB2. So please subscribe. And in terms of complaints and calls to the board office, actually we had a very slow February. We had 33 complaints. 31 were closed in the month of February. The top complaints were abandoned cars, potholes, damaged signage, and clogged sewers, and people complaining about unhoused people. And those were the top complaints. We're looking forward to getting more specific numbers, and maybe with the tech committee's help, we'll be able to use open data and get the raw 311 calls in a format that's readable and accessible. I want to also remind the chairs of all the committees that you're working on your mission statements and stakeholders list. So please don't forget about those. Looking forward to seeing the work on those and progress as we kind of define what we're doing this year and next year. Also, the bylaws task force meetings are on the CB2 website. The public is able to view but not participate. These are working meetings, and we don't even have chat on those meetings because it's so important that we get this work done. And again, these are working meetings where you get to observe, but at this time, we are not opening the chat on that specific temporary committee. Wanted to announce the trainings for land use review that the city offers, and environmental review, CEQR. They're going to be held by city planning for community boards, March 29th, 6 to 9 p.m. and March 30th, 6 to 9 p.m. on WebEx. If you haven't received the email about it, contact the office and we can get that information out to you. Strongly encourage, if you want to beef up on your understanding ULURP or environmental review, or you've never understood it and want to do these. And is it this weekend we change the clocks? No, next weekend? Maybe next weekend. So forget that, but in 2 weeks, you got to change your clocks. And I want to say happy Women's History Month to all those women in our board and our community. We want to celebrate you and thank you for all that you do. Happy St. Patrick's Day, of course. And April 7th is our next meeting at 6:30. That's all for the chair's report. I think we're on to our district manager's report.
I don't have a lot to say other than echoing Maury. I want to thank the tech committee and the engagement inclusion committee. They've been amazing and trying to get things done and work together. We have also in the works, and that'll be the next little project, is we're going to have the tech team design for the website complaint forms. So not just calling the office or emailing us. We'll be able to email the office or send your complaint and your concern and your community pothole and street light and whatever the issue is through the website. So we're gonna work on that too. So that'll be something new and exciting. And we're continuing to revamp and work the website so to make it more user-friendly for all of you. Again, we continue to post to Facebook and social media and try to get all of the information out there from the various agencies. So remember to let us know. We're tracking our complaints. We're making sure, but homelessness is a big issue, and we work with the 108th and Street to Home and on the mayor's initiative with CAU to try to get some of that alleviated. I know that we also have a big issue, and I've brought it up at the cabinet meetings. I know there is a lot of unsanitary conditions with dog walkers and pets and animals. But we also have unsavory rats that we've put in rat complaints from the community in the neighborhoods. So we're trying to address that. Right now, sanitation does not have the ability to do those curb your dog signage and put them everywhere, but we're certainly talking to the various agencies to see what we can do and continue to do that. So I wanted to mention that. And again, Women's History Month. It's an honor and a privilege to serve all of you and work together for the betterment of our community. So I appreciate your feedback, and please make sure you get all your concerns to the board office. Thank you.
Yeah, just to re-emphasize what Debbie just said, part of what the Engagement Inclusion Task Force or committee is doing is really reaching out and making sure people know, and elevates the visibility of the board in the community, and make sure everyone knows they can call the board and make complaints and really spread the word. And board members, please, if you're walking down the street and you see graffiti or you see a problem, go ahead in. Debbie and the team at the office are on top of it. And then one other little statement, we have, there's a tremendous problem with unhoused people suffering in the community and all over throughout the city and all around. And I just want everybody to remember, just because people don't, and I don't mean to pontificate, but, people who are unhoused are members of our community, even if they live on the street or under the 7 train or in a corner somewhere. They are our neighbors, even if they don't have a structure around them. And so I hope we all will treat them as neighbors. And if we see, like we get the Code Blue announcements and we post on Twitter and Facebook, when it's too cold out, let 311 know if you see somebody that looks like they're in danger and they're and the cold is going to be too much. A lot of folks don't want to go to shelters because it's dangerous for them. The 108 has been telling us that they have relationships with a lot of unhoused folks, and they will bring them to the hospital because they'd rather go to the hospital overnight than go to a shelter. And if they have a lot of possessions that they have on the street with them, they can't bring them into the shelter. So a lot of times they'll wind up going to a hospital and staying there as long as they can. So I just want to emphasize that these are our neighbors, and let's look out for these folks. Thank you. And I want to now move on to
Lauren, can I ask a question?
Yeah, Kat?
Is this the appropriate time to ask a question?
No, but I'll let you.
Oh, sorry. Please tell me where I should say it. But okay. So one, I want to know if it's possible to have our social media feeds on the website. Because I have a feeling that when people put up.
Can you no, go ahead. Sorry.
Facebook is there.
Right, but the feed, so that when people see if you post something.
Yeah, we have the live feed on Facebook. But it's, yeah, it's in the middle and it's unreadable. So Debbie and I are working with
Okay.
the city to fix that, so it's easier
Try to
to.
make it a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. And then I was also wondering, on the like resources page, I wonder if there's all the kinds of organizations, except there's not arts and culture organizations in the like listed there. So I wonder if there's a way that we can, I know that I've been trying to find like and create a list and compare lists. I just wonder if there's a way that we could.
Arts and Culture has their own page, so we can talk to them and work with them.
Gotcha.
tighten that
Sorry.
up.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Kat, did you just mean like arts and culture, arts organizations within the community that you want to be listed in resources?
Yeah, like on the left-hand side, they have like there's homeless shelters, there's healthcare, libraries, and civic organizations, but there's not like arts and culture. And so I was hoping that could just be listed there.
Yeah, we can work with arts and culture to come up with a list. And if you have ones you want, we can work on that. And the tech committee is actually, we've talked about this last month, the tech committee is actually working on a revamp of the existing website and a restructuring, reorganization to make it clearer, have ideas of when and where. I guess I can leave that to the tech committee's report if they want to put it in. So we can thank you, Kat, for bringing that up. So let's move on to city planning. Is Teal here?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, everyone. Okay. So to start, I just want to reinforce what Maury said about the community board trainings. First, just know that these are only open to community board members, and we'll have some land use modules, we'll have some environmental review, aka seeker modules, and I'll also be working with my partner Luis to provide an urban design module, and we are very excited to be talking to you all. Second, I wanted to give a plug for the Equitable Development Data Tool, which was very recently released by in partnership of DCP and HPD. And so this tool will allow community boards and the public to explore data relevant for public discussions about racial equity and planning for a fairer city. And what the tool actually is made of is data that has been culminated into maps and other ways of representing data, just so that it's more accessible to the public to help facilitate more conversations. And I will drop, I'll drop a link in the chat so that you can look at the draft tool. And I'll do that just after my announcements. And I think the webpage does a really great job of explaining something that is quite complicated. And so we've had 3 information sessions scheduled. One of them already happened. One of them is tonight, but there is another one on Saturday, March 5th at 10 a.m. And you can, there's a link for that on the webpage that I'll drop in the chat. What we want to get from the community right now is feedback, because right now this still is in the draft stage, and it won't be officially released until April. And so you can go to the information sessions, you can put feedback into the website, and we also have office hours that you can sign up for, also in the website. And those are from, looks like 5 to 7 p.m. on March 7th. So that'll be next week. And then finally, the last kind of moment that or another way you can also interact with us on this is to go to the public hearing and provide testimony, which will be March 10th from 4 to 7 p.m. So I will drop the link in the chat, but also just want to give a few land use announcements first. Open restaurants was officially adopted by the City Council. It's been a long journey to get to this point, but just want to let you all know that has occurred. And we don't have any super impending ULURP applications for CB2 at this time, but like I shared with the land use committee, the ones that are kind of on deck and could come to the CB before the summer break are 2310 Queens Plaza South, which is the 22-story enlargement of the Eagle Electric building. That's all office space. 5802 Northern Boulevard, which is the boutique auto dealership way out in Northern Boulevard. That could also come to the CB. And we have 2 city applications. One is for a DEP acquisition on Skillman Avenue, 3915 Skillman Avenue, as well as a DOT acquisition at 4725 34th Street, also known as the Hub. And these are just to facilitate leases for those agencies so they can occupy those buildings. And it's not known if these will actually occur before summer, but just want to let you know what's on deck. And I'm happy to take any questions if you have them.
Lisa.
Hey, hi Teal, how are you?
Hi, Lisa.
2 questions. One, on the open restaurants, was the final outcome to release the zoning of the cafes pending the institution of rules? Or how did that come out? What's his final decision on that?
Yes, that's my understanding, is exactly how you just explained it, Lisa, because the adoption was of the zoning text amendment, which expanded specifically the geography where sidewalk restaurants could be. And in the city planning commission, there had already been that modification to like withhold the actual so that like the text amendment doesn't go into effect until the rules have been figured out.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's part of it. It doesn't go into effect until the rules are figured out, right?
Correct.
Cool, that's great. Second question is on the equitable development. I know I invited you to have someone come and present to land use. Is that possible to do?
I don't recall talking about that, or maybe I missed an email.
You said you couldn't because it wasn't ready yet. You and I can talk offline.
Yeah, let's talk offline about that one.
Yeah, okay, fine. All right, great. Thanks.
So quick question. Sheila, hi Teal.
Hi.
So just, I'm curious, have you guys had any speculation as to the revenue that the city will, like a range of the revenue the city is hoping for from the increased footprint of open restaurants?
I'm really not sure. That's honestly a great question for DOT at this time, because our DCP role has just diminished to an extent. We're still involved in some of the like creation of rules, but that's really more of a physical, the physical manifestation of these of outdoor dining. So please reach out to DOT with those kinds of questions.
I will. Thank you.
Great. Hi, everybody. It's Frank. Maury had to take a quick bio break. So I think just moving along, then I think we should go to the committee reports for land use. If Christine, if you want to give an update.
Okay.
No, I think I'll giving the update, Frank.
Oh, go ahead, Lisa. Sorry.
That's all right. The first item, we have 2 votes. The first one, let's see, on the agenda is it the day we'll do the fire department first. And so, so the fire department came to the land use committee, and you saw the presentation here today. Dave Harney had mentioned that previously the community board had voted against this ULURP in 2001. And there's kind of, if you picked up on that comment, that's because it was an existing private business in that facility. And at the time, we were concerned about, we had a lot of public agencies in this community board district, and fair share was a big issue for us, that we had really too many public facilities in this area. And so, so we voted at that time against it. And I don't know, Dave, if you want to comment any more on that. But, it subsequently was approved, and, this is 20 years later, and it's a very different situation. And so they came to the community board twice, actually, and we saw the presentation. You know, it's much needed additional space for the fire department to do repairs and part storage and some administrative space. They're going to relocate some of their work from Review Avenue to Borden Avenue. They're not closing the Review Avenue facility. They're going to do other things there, but you know, they're going to expand the Borden Avenue space. And so, you know, the land use committee heard it a couple of times. I see, we talked a lot about vehicles, vehicle storage, vehicles in and out. They have a lot of additional electric vehicles now. It's not really about, you know, additional use of cars, and it's a facility where they're going to store vehicles and they're going to do repairs. So there's not going to be a lot of traffic in and out. And Borden Avenue, of course, is a very busy space. So we unanimously voted in favor of this minor modification, and I put it out to members for questions. Okay, nobody has any questions? Does somebody want to make a motion to approve the minor modification? Sheila?
Yep.
I'll second.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, great. Is anybody opposed to doing this? To this vote? Is anybody abstaining to this vote? Okay, great. Then it passes unanimously. The next item is the DOT revocable consent. You all heard the presentation here tonight. Thank you, Dave, for your presentation. I guess you can go now. So unless you want to stay.
Hey, it's Mark Allenberg from the fire department. I just want to thank you all very much for your time and effort on this. It's really going to make a big difference for the fire department and the communities that we serve. So thank you very much.
You're more than welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
Thank you all for your service to the community. And I know you've done this presentation several times to the board, and we're grateful for your patience and being responsive and really taking the time to take us through everything. Thank you.
Not at
Yeah,
all.
it's really
That's what we get
great
paid for.
working with you. Okay, good night, gentlemen.
Good night.
DOT revocable consent. You all saw the presentation. The self-help TF Cornerstone team had come to land use with one person. The developer wasn't there.
Lisa, can I interrupt you for
Yeah,
1 second?
sure.
I'm
of
sorry.
course.
Just before I go, one thing I just want to stress from the fire department's point of view, in about 10 days, everybody's gonna be changing their clocks. Please make sure to change the batteries in your smoke detectors.
Okay.
The easiest way to save yourself in case there's a fire is to have a working battery and a working smoke detector. If you have an issue or you need something, Debbie knows our director of community services for Fabrizio Cow. Be more than happy to work with any members of the board to provide you with materials. So please let us know.
Yeah, that's great, Dave. You used to always come to our in-person meetings and bring batteries and materials. So we look forward to doing that
I
again.
mean, there are so many cases where families, large families were lost because when the fire marshals go and do their inspection and they pop the smoke detector, there's no battery in it.
Right.
So.
Dave, can I ask you a question? A follow-up
sir.
question? Fire extinguishers. I have a small mini fire extinguisher in my home. And do they expire? Are you supposed to get them tested? Should I get a new one?
There should be a date on it for recertification or disposal. Have Debbie send me an email and I will speak to our team about it, and I'll get back to the board.
All right, yeah, because I'm sure a lot of folks have have them. And yeah, I just, all of a sudden it occurred to me, and I thought, maybe I need to get this replaced or recharged, or I've never used it, thank God.
Well, yeah, that's a good thing.
All right, so we'll follow up and find out, and then we'll report back to the board. Thank you for
Right.
being.
Thanks so much. Guys, have a great
Thanks,
evening.
Dave.
Please stay safe.
David?
Yes,
Sheila has a question.
Well, since you were so kind to bring up the safety issue, I had a follow-up question about smoke detectors, smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. Is many of us now have the long-term battery ones, so it's not a
Right.
replaceable battery. And I've never heard like a piece of advice about that, whether we're testing them to make sure they work. Because there's certainly a move in that direction. And
They are. I mean, the one in my apartment's a permanent one. I don't, and
Right.
and every 6 months I buy a new battery, and I always forget.
You don't
I'm there
need
with the
it.
9-volt trying to take the thing off, and I'm like, oh yeah, I don't have to do this.
Okay, but so is
Um,
there anything to share on that front?
If you put that in with Debbie, and I'll have Fabrizio get back to the board with all that information, because that's right in our wheelhouse.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Everybody have a great night. And please stay safe.
You too, Dave. Take care. Okay, DOT revocable consent. You saw the presentation tonight. What they need is a letter of no objection to these new flood mitigation measures. It's a new, it's a new development, Hunters Point South. There will be work to reinforce the sidewalk and to the depth of 18-inch foundation, support the post for the flood barriers, the flood mitigation, as they described it, will prevent water from getting in. And the development team is seeking a letter of no objection. As you well know, we talk about flood mitigation along the East River waterfront all the time. And this is actually the first time that anyone's had to come to the board for something like this. Other developments may have installed these mitigation measures on their own property. Nothing like this has ever come to the board before. It's not to say other developments don't have mitigation measures. So, I would say, there's not much we can do. And it's a safety measure and it's a flood mitigation measure. And, nobody described if we don't vote or vote no, what would happen. And so we could provide a letter of no objection. It's something that's a safety issue. And, I would suggest we do that, but, I'd like to hear from people on the committee about it. So Mary.
Actually, my question is, they're not the most southern parcel.
No, Gotham is more south.
And what did they do? I mean, if they're more south.
Maybe they haven't
do
done
Not
anything
have retail.
Maybe
on
they haven't done
Street
anything yet. I
maybe
haven't spoken with them.
Road? Oh, is this a prelude to what might be coming in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think it really is. I think it's a prelude. I mean, it's going to be everything going forward. It's going to be bigger and better and harder flood mitigation measures. It's great. I mean, in some ways, really, they shouldn't be building down there at all, in my opinion.
No, I know. I just know that there's a landing, for small boats and kayaks, and I don't know what's stopping the water to come flooding up that. I mean, I'm being facetious and punchy at 9:30, but
no, I know.
No, I guess, no, I didn't. Okay, that really was my question.
Yeah, Sheila.
I didn't know if you wanted to go around the committee first, because you mentioned, did you want to do that first?
What's that?
You were saying you wanted to hear from the committee first, so I didn't know if you.
Oh, no, not the committee. I mean, you all.
Okay, the board. Okay. I don't object to flood mitigation. I think that's really important. That's safety, but I do object to it not being built into a plan when this 2014 code, they're very well aware of it. And for all we know, a lot of these other buildings have built it in. And I know people post about that, they're a good landlord and all that. To me, that's irrelevant to the point that I do object to just saying yes because it's the only thing that's presented to us, not to flood mitigation.
Right. I get it. Christine, Kenny, and then Nick.
Okay, I mean, I think your questions about, or whoever asked the questions about design options were right on target because they did have choices. And with regard to the retail, they chose a method, which to me, it's not so much, I don't have any objections to them putting reinforcements in the sidewalk. That's not a big deal. But I'm not, this method that they're describing isn't very tried, and it's certainly not I mean, the safest thing is to keep people out of the water, not to have to go out and bring out barriers to put, hopefully with enough notice, but you never know. There could be flash floods and tornado, there can be all kinds of events that we haven't experienced before. So, and these systems really are not, don't have much track record. So I do think it puts the retail somewhat at risk. But that said, it is kind of a done deal. What's odd to, or what's unfortunate is the process, because they got the DOB approval for building the building the way they did it.
Okay.
And then this revocable consent is part of the builder's paving plan sort of process that they don't actually need to get signed off until after the building is built. So they really waited until the last minute. And that's why there's the discrepancy. But given that it's taken place that way, I don't see that there's much, that we have much power to affect, the design.
Yeah, Ken.
Yeah, and that's that's exactly my feeling about it, exactly what both Sheila and Christine are saying. I mean, I'm not an architect, and I can conceive of at least 3 different ways to handle this. There's an argument to be made for that maybe this benefits the commercial tenants by having direct access to the street. That's the only argument that I would actually buy. But everything else is really all about optimizing their income on, and not having to give up additional space by building this on their property. And it's something that I think we have to keep our eye out going forward. I agree that, it's hard to oppose it in this particular situation. But I think we should be mindful of any further development that requires mitigation.
I agree. Nick, and then Mary.
I have 2 things to say about this. The first is this was about the worst presentation of something that I've seen before our board and our committee, at least this calendar year, if not in the past, because I think what they're proposing here is really ultimately not that big of a deal. And they've certainly made some value judgments, but within what they're asking us for, this is not that significant of a question. But another thing I think is a significant question is our general disposition towards waterfront development broadly. And I don't think that the question that's being asked of us is encompassing of all of our options for how we can tackle the very existential questions about how we deal with waterfront development in our community. And so that all said, I do think that if we're going to have a building on a street in this community, that a 7-foot tall walk up to it is a pretty horrible thing to have to deal with, especially in the 90% of the time, plus when you're walking down streets at night and you have nothing next to you but a blank wall. But that said, whether that building should be there to begin with is a bigger question. And unfortunately, that's not the one being asked of us today. So within the question that's being asked for us, I intend to support this. And that doesn't change either of the 2 things I said. So
Yeah, no, completely agree. Mary.
Just to circle back to Kenny's point, there are buildings in Long Island City, ironically, that are nowhere near the waterfront, i.e. 2222 Jackson, that you have to either go up a ramp that's pretty long, or you have to walk up 5 to 6 steps to get to the retail. So, precedent is already there that it's done, meaning that retail can be above street level. So, that having been said, I just kind of feel like it was kind of like presented like, well, we kind of knew this was going to happen and we're just going to do it this way. We know we're going to wait till the last minute and the board's not going to have a choice but to approve it, because why would the board vote against flood remediation and flood control? So, I kind of feel a little bit kind of to somebody else's point, like kind of ghosted, like, taken aback and kind of feeling blindsided by it.
Right.
Because none of us are going to say that we're against flood remediation. So I am going to support it because I don't want to see people getting flooded, but there's not much that's going to come now because the city already kind of developed this site, 10 to 20 years ago. They already earmarked this whole development, but there are other potential waterfront property that can be developed north of us. And I think whether it's in our district or it goes into CB1, there has to be a lot of attention to this. And this has to, you have to kind of get the message out to the other community boards that you're going to have developers who are going to, and I'm in real estate, I know the developer is going to build to 100% of what they're allowed to do by law and to code. So you can't say that you can blame TF Cornerstone for doing that. But if you are going to look at the zoning, to his point, then we have to really make sure it's pushed back onto the city that anything that's built along the waterfront, that has to go into the plan, and you can't let a developer develop to that 100% and then just assume that they're going to go onto public land and it'll be okay.
Right, there's a tremendous amount in this. I mean, and that we've been talking about on the waterfront for a very long time. And it's a good presentation of somebody who's doing something, retrospective rather than thinking.
And we didn't really hear from the community where there are other retail space that are further away from the waterfront who might feel that they're going to be flooded more because they're already below grade. And this is just going to funnel water to them. And we saw that in Sandy. We have our neighbors and our really good friends who had businesses destroyed by Sandy because of current code that allowed for remediation and, building 12 feet over grade. So this can potentially hurt the surrounding neighborhood and the surrounding neighbors. So, I mean, that's just, I guess, the chance you take when you're living near the water, I guess. So.
Thanks, Mary. Jake?
Yeah, I agree with what everyone is saying. It's like the scale and funding for these projects is so huge that the possibilities of ways to address this are like endless. Like there's so many things you could do. Like the entire sidewalk could be lifted up like a high line, right? And there could be like entire things that span the streets. If we feel it's so important to develop in a flood zone, we shouldn't be like, I just think the idea that we're going to put up these 7-foot walls and that this building crew that's never practiced it is going to like figure out how to do it in enough time and get the cities alert and get them out there, and there's going to be no gaps and it's going to like actually work. Is just like, it seems so unlikely to me that it's going to actually have any positive impact. And it's so much work and so much hassle on the public sidewalk. Like they could build garage doors into the facade of these buildings that is waterproof and that's automated and that's going to automatically detect moisture and close. They could have egress that goes up through the middle of the building to a higher level so that anyone who's trapped in a wheelchair doesn't have to like go out the door and then have floodwaters bearing down upon them on the other side of a 7-foot temporary wall and have stairs on either side and be trapped. Like none of this makes any sense. And like, of course, yeah, it's too late now. And like, we're all going to do this and we're going to say like, pat ourselves on the back and be like, we've remediated floods in this development when like, it's not going to solve anything. And it's going to just make this huge hassle. And the developer got to develop their thing. And when these buildings inevitably flood anyway, because their maintenance people don't know how to install the walls properly, everyone's going to be like, oops, I guess we didn't predict this kind of storm. So I don't know what we're doing. It's just kind of silly.
Yeah. Sheila, did you have another comment?
I did, but I didn't know if Christine did because she had her hand up.
Oh, Christine, did you have another comment?
No, I agree with what everybody's saying, but go ahead, Sheila.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, I guess I hear everyone saying we're going to support it because we have to. And part of me is like, I don't feel like we need to support this.
No.
I think we need to support mitigation, but that is that and just say that and say, but it should, because I do think, to point a few people have been making, and Lisa certainly made it before, and a few people, other ones are coming. And so we keep sending the message that if we just say, all right, well, we got to do it, then it's just going to be more and more. I think we can say no, and then the city's going to be forced to deal with them because they have to. It's mandated.
Maureen?
I will not vote in support of this at all. There is no way in hell that I will vote in support of this because it is not vetted. It is not clear what the other options could have been. We were so blindsided, as Mary pointed out. I think many of us feel very blindsided by this. I do not think that because they gave us one option that they decided to design, that we are voting against flood mitigation. We are voting against this plan that they have presented to us and didn't even do a wonderful job that presenting to us like they would have done if they wanted to get approval on a $300 million building, right? As much as they talk to us all the time about, they rent their buildings, they don't sell them, and it's so important for them to be a part of the community. Well, show us, don't tell us. I will not vote in support of this, and I urge all my fellow board members to vote against this because we have to send a message loud and clear to them and to the Department of Transportation. You cannot blindside the community. You do not have control of us, okay?
So do you want to make a motion?
I make a motion that we do not support this and that we make it clear that that we are voting against the plan, not the mitigation.
Yeah, I think, sorry.
Did you want to second that?
Well, can I discuss?
Well, why don't you second it and then we'll discuss some more.
All right, I'll second it. Now can I discuss?
Yes, please. We have a
I
motion
think
on
we
the
want
table. We're having discussion.
Can I just say we need a parliamentarian?
Yeah,
Sorry?
no, we should have a motion on the table and then have a discussion. So go ahead.
Well, I just think we should carefully word the letter to. What was that? Oh.
Somebody is,
Yeah.
all right, go ahead.
I would just urge that the letter be carefully worded to say, what was missing and we feel that that options were not reviewed and that this is not the option which is most advantageous for the community as a whole or the safest for the residents and for the users of the retail. And that's why.
Not safe for people in a wheelchair, that's for sure.
Right. Well, it's really not safe for anybody in that, who might be in the retail space that's actually flooding, because you're getting out into a flooded area and they could have designed the egress to go to the higher, elevations. It would have just been a little tougher, it would have taken more space out of the first floor plan. So anyway, so I'm comfortable not supporting it, but I think we should make our reasoning clear that we're not just being oppositional.
I would say I would be in favor of voting against this if the language is such that, to Christine's point, that it's not flood remediation we're against, it's the plan, and that it doesn't really prove to us that it's safe for the people who would be in the retail space.
Or effective at its purpose.
Right.
Any other comments?
I'm going to call the question.
Okay, great. All in favor of calling the question? Okay, it's gonna, Debbie, I want to do this as a roll call vote, if you don't mind.
Sorry, so yes means we are not supporting.
Yes means you are opposed, you are not in
Opposed
favor
to the
of
motion.
Yes.
You're opposed to.
the
Frank has his
project.
hand up. Are we
Yeah.
allowed to still have discussion or are we beyond that?
I think
No,
he was
okay.
raising his hand.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Debbie,
Question
what
was
do you?
called. You want roll call, right?
Yes, we
Okay.
do.
Start at the back of the
Carol
alphabet?
Appleby.
I guess not, okay.
Carol?
Yes.
Yes. Anatol Asheroff.
Yes.
Carisha Baton,
So, sorry, yes means no?
Yes means you're opposed.
Okay, yes.
Nick Berkowitz,
Yes.
Sandra Begishka,
Yes.
Kat Bloomfield,
Yes.
Daniel Brecker,
Yes.
Tanya Chavez, she's absent.
Yes, I'm here, Debbie.
Oh, you're here. Okay. All right. I will change the attendance. You got it. Thank you, Tanya. Osmond Chowdhury,
Yes.
Chief Cooper is absent. Warren Davis is absent. Jake DeGroot,
Yes.
Lisa Della,
Yes.
Sally Frank. Sally? Sally, are you here?
I don't
She was
see
here
her.
for
I don't
attendance.
see her on anymore.
No.
Okay, thank you. Maura Gallinoy,
Yes.
William Garrett's absent. Somnath Gamir? Somnath, you were here? You are here. Please unmute and give your vote. Somnath Gamir.
Left or right side? Excuse me? Right side.
Somnath, your vote, please.
I think Samit left again.
No, he's here. I see him.
Somnath is here.
Oh, I don't
And I
see him.
asked to unmute him.
Can we
Why
go
don't you
back?
move on and come back?
Okay.
Okay.
Left or right side? Please don't go left side, guide the right side.
Osmond, can you please mute?
Who's talking? Roz,
Yes.
Camille Gray,
Abstain.
is that yes?
She
Abstain.
abstained.
Oh, she's abstaining. Okay, got it. Kenny Greenberg,
Oh, yes.
Ben Gutman. Ben? I don't see him. Christine Hunter,
Yes.
Mohammed Chaudhry Jewel,
Yes.
John Khan is absent. Sheila Lewandowski,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Tom Matusas,
Yes, thank you.
Clara Oza,
Yes.
Carla Perez, absent. Stephen Raga,
I'm right here. Yes.
Carla was
you s-
here.
Okay, got it. You said, Carla, you said yes?
Yeah.
Thank you. Stephen Raga,
Yes.
Selena Romero is absent. Catherine Sabel is absent. Roberto Sedana,
Yes.
Regina Shanley,
Yes.
Laura Shepherd's absent. Lauren Springer,
Yes.
Mary Torres,
Yes.
Anthony Chidella,
Yes.
John Vicunis, absent. Frank Wu.
Yes.
Okay, and the motion carries, one abstention.
Thanks, Deb. I think we should move on now. Maureen, who's next? Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, city services will be meeting next month. They did not meet last month. Is it this, what's the date, Debbie? It's the 9th, March
The
9th.
9th.
That's-
The 9th.
Thanks, Debbie. March 9th at 6:30 PM on Zoom. If you need the link or anything like that, just go to the CB2 website and go to the calendar section and you can get all the information on all the committee meetings right there. So Arts and Culture Committee report. Carisha.
Hi, hold on. Let me see if my video works now.
Yay! Okay. Okay. So at February's Arts and Culture meeting, we had PS1 do their presentation that I think everybody saw already about the mural. The first location of the mural, which will be facing that little plaza, is scheduled to be up by this fall, I believe. And then they're going to kind of get some public reaction from there and hopefully be able to paint the other walls surrounding their property. Queens Council on the Arts also came and presented. We met the new interim executive director, Rodney Fuller. They are interested in activating their new space that they have now in LIC, as well as adding some more virtual programming as part of their community outreach, especially to their artists community. They're also planning a listening tour. So I will keep you guys updated on that. There should be several virtual and in-person opportunities across the borough, including our district, for them to hear how the artists have been feeling about QCA lately. We also spoke about the different challenges that muralists have in terms of getting work up on the walls, specifically to insurance and certification. So that's an ongoing discussion. And we are also continuing our outreach to more organizations, particularly community centers and houses of worship, to keep joining our monthly committee meetings so we can learn more about them. And then our next meeting is on Tuesday in honor of St. Patrick's Day / month here in Sunnyside. We're gonna have McManus Irish Dance present, as well as the New York Irish Center, who has a new executive director that we're excited to meet. So everybody please come on Tuesday. Thank you.
Carisha, it's Sheila. I have a question.
Hi, Sheila.
Hey, oh gosh, I'm so excited for what you're doing. You know that. The question I have is things like CASA and SUCASA, because of last year, because of the issues with Queens Council on the Arts, which we all look forward to being, moving forward. The deadlines to file happened, and so do you know any more information?
So the most that I have heard is that QCA lost SUCASA.
I know.
And then that is it transferred to Flushing Town Hall? Did that go to Flushing Town Hall?
Well, it didn't happen last year. Anyway, so we can follow up because for a lot of the councils, the deadline to apply was the end of January.
Okay. I will
so
follow up with them and find out what the update is. Thank
Okay, and
you
if
for
not
bringing
them,
it.
follow up with a council member, because maybe she can do something so that Queens doesn't lose it again.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Sheila. I will do that.
Thanks.
Anybody else? No? All right, transportation.
It's me again.
Yes, welcome.
All right, I'll try to be quick. I'm going to upfront bring the thing up that we're going to ask the whole board to vote on. And that is that the Transportation Committee is sending a letter to the chair of the City Council's Transportation Committee. And I want to thank Laura Shepard for drafting the letter. And then and then myself and my co-chair Thomas, we worked with her to get this done, pushing the DOT to expedite the pedestrian walkway on the Queensboro Bridge. Because first of all, there were years ago, they weren't going to do it, and then they were going to do it, and then it was maybe this year, and now they pushed it out another 2 years. And if anyone has been biking or riding across that bridge, you see how crowded it is, how untenable, and how dangerous it is. And the reason the DOT has been giving us is that there's construction. And, so we have crafted a letter that I don't want to read now because it'll take up too much time, just demanding that they expedite this, that we need to prioritize the most vulnerable people in that bridge. And so just asking, the board to vote on that tonight. So can I do that, get that out of the way, and then Just give you a quick report on the other things.
Yes.
Would anybody like to make a motion to support the letter to the
I would.
chair?
I make a
Motion
motion.
to support the letter.
Can you just say
I
everyone?
wanna second the motion.
I second.
Okay, so Amparo said
Oh, it's
first,
a fight
Lisa
in the
said
street.
second, and
Lisa,
then
you seconded. Who made the motion?
Amparo.
Amparo.
Laura always does. She comes through.
Would it be possible to drop the letter in the chat, please, or a link to it?
Idea. Does anyone have it handy?
It's longer than the chat. Let me see if I can. Hold
Drop
on.
the file, right?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna see if I can't copy and paste. Well, I'll try to do that in the meantime, just so it's here. It'll be public. We can make it public.
Well, I want to put it in the minutes, and that's why I would need it, so.
Well, Roz, why don't you wait until it's finalized and then you can put it in the minutes?
Yeah, exactly. This was a vote on putting the letter, sending the letter.
And then once we send it, we'll post it as a support letter
Well,
online
it's
under
something
transportation
we
and
are
give it to you.
doing in this meeting, and I think it belongs
Okay.
in the minutes.
Hang on, I'm okay. All right, I'm gonna come back to that. We can come back to that. I have it from the office, but just to update on some things, there's also a letter we're working on, and I'd like to thank Kristen McGowan to kind of have the DOT more seriously prioritize the blocks around schools and traffic calming, because there are a few blocks in the district.
Excuse me, Sheila, you got a motion on the table that was seconded, so vote first.
I didn't know, I thought we were done with it. Is
No,
there
you
anyone
had-
who's opposed to the letter to the DOT?
Any abstentions?
Get that letter out. Get it out. Get it out. Sorry, it's almost done.
Good.
So it's unanimous, okay, so I can put the vote in the letter.
Right, so I'm going to move on. And so to thank Kristen McGowan for also drafting a letter that is not finalized, because we were just tweaking on that right before the meeting. But I want to put it out here, and we'll figure out and it's not finalized, but I don't want to hold it up, because there are a number of school areas in the district, and Kristen, if you want to speak to this, please do. I would have asked Laura, but she's not here. About some of the school areas that have not been prioritized. We've been asking for traffic calming. We've been asking for four-way stops, and so we just want to say this is a priority for this community board, is that our school areas are made as safe as possible. So that's another letter that is coming out. I'm going to ask the full board support. Outside of
Can I
that,
ask a question on that? Can I ask one simple question?
yes, please, Roz.
Would that include daycare centers?
We can.
I think it certainly should as well, yeah.
Okay, so this is why I'm glad we're at daycare centers. What about senior centers?
I mean, yeah,
Perhaps
I
in
think so.
hospitals, but that hospitals, do we?
Okay. All right, so if people can all submit the things that we want to have included on this letter, submit it to the office, and then we will come back to the board with the final letter next month. Does that sound good?
I'm sorry, Sheila, where are you sending that? You're sending it to
I'm
DOT
And the mayor.
and Julie.
correct.
To all our elected officials.
All
our
the
regular
electeds will
CC
get it.
list.
Okay,
Lisa?
great.
So just very briefly, we got an update from the 108 and DOT on the different types of electric bikes, e-bikes, mopeds, because there's some confusion as to what is legal and what is not. We're actually asking for some further presentations, because just because the charts exist on a website does not mean it's understandable to most people. So we would like more of that. And there was a presentation by the DOT on the protected bike lane on 34th Avenue from Broadway to 69th Street, a protected bike lane that in part goes two ways, and then it's one way in each direction on 68th and 69th. And so that was presented, which was just the final piece of another part of the protected bike lane, which everyone on the committee supported. And I think those are the big things. The rest of it you'll see in the minutes. I don't want to hold up all the rest of the time. And in the meantime, I'll pass it back and I will find the letter and drop it in the chat. Thank you.
Sheila, is this the one? I think I have the right one. The pedestrian walkway to Honorable Rodriguez.
That's it. You got it?
Yeah, let me see if I can drop it in.
Great.
Try.
It will be amended, that letter.
What's that?
That letter will be amended.
Yeah,
It will be? The one for the bridge?
Yes, we have to add the vote.
but it
as I said
says
in the fifth
draft.
Paragraph.
Okay, so it will be added, but at least people can see what they're voting.
Yeah, and it says draft on it, so
Great.
that's, let me just.
Thank you, Maury.
Yep, and while I'm doing that, I will send it over to the Environment Committee.
Yeah, so on the environmental committee, we had 2 speakers. We had a couple of community groups, including Newtown Creek Alliance, as well as LIC Roots, a community garden, testify and ask for support around the deteriorating conditions around 29th Street and 47th Avenue with the bulkhead collapsing. This is near the Fauci Center and LaGuardia College, which we had voted in favor of. And I know it's a complex issue because it involves multiple parties like the MTA, the DOT, and I believe it's also on the Transportation Committee agenda. So we can wait to finalize that letter. But essentially, we were all in support of the issue, right? And they had multiple elected officials discuss this. The second speaker that we had was actually Department of Environmental Protection. So was there a question?
Oh, no, where are we on 83rd now? I'm right here.
I don't think we're on 83rd. Yeah. So the second speaker was Department of Environmental Protection that actually created an upgraded pump station around kind of CSOs. And the committee was actually pretty disappointed in the design of this upgraded pump station because it was implemented by the city agency Department of Environmental Protection, but there was no mitigating actually green water things like you could do around like making concrete more porous, recycling the gray water that's coming up from the town. So we actually asked them to come back to the meeting in 2 months to request a change order to the engineering firm to see if they could implement more green water effects, right, for the upgraded pump station. So and then I think that letter is in draft, but we did send it out if folks want to see it along with the actual design implementation that Department of Environmental Protection had done. So that was it.
Frank, I have a quick question. Maury and I went down to the bulkhead. Who owns that bulkhead?
So I went down to the bulkhead today to meet with Noah at the LIC Roots. So it's the concrete area, the concrete plant. Part of that is actually the MTA property. The concrete plant actually just went and expanded onto MTA's private property years ago, but it was just never enforced. So part of it is technically MTA property as well as the concrete if you actually look at the lines of the property. But whether or not MTA will actually enforce it or do anything about it is a different matter. But part of it is actually owned by the MTA.
It's
And
gonna
then Sheila,
get
did you
no,
have a question? Oh, yes, go ahead.
it's gonna get no traction. I can't imagine this getting any traction, but anyway, it's an interesting site.
It's an interesting site, and I talked to Noah. So years ago when this community garden was first started in 1996, the reason why it got attraction in the first place was I think Kathy Nolan was on the budget committee for the MTA, and Kathy helped kind of implement and connect the group with the MTA's real estate firm, right? So now I don't know where things are changing, right? But I do think it is a community group, right, that I think we want to be aware of. And to be honest, I wasn't intimately familiar with the site, even though it's only 9 minutes walking distance from Court Square. So I think the area is going to get a little bit more foot traffic, but at the very least, I wanted to check it out for myself too. And I think they still are going to be trying to rally it. So we should be aware of it at the very least. I guess Sheila, did you have a question?
Just to follow up on what you were saying about the letter that, because the Transportation Committee, we discussed it briefly. but didn't have, we certainly would want to bring it to the committee to support and even the full board, because that's quite serious.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think we should finalize the letter
Yeah.
and put it out. And if you look at the coalition, that Newtown Creek Alliance, I mean, pretty much all of our elected officials, Queensborough President, Carolyn Maloney, Janoris, Julie Wan, like everyone's already signed on, right? Essentially. So I think we'd be adding to it. But I think it would be helpful, right? So. Cool. That's all I had, Maury. Thank you. Maury, can you hear me? Or that's all I have for the environmental committee. So.
Oh, I guess I was on mute. Thank you, Mr. First Vice Chair. All right, Anatole, Tech Committee.
Thanks, Maury. So we didn't have a meeting last month, but our work is continuing in the newsletter, like Maury mentioned, and hopefully we'll have it out. You'll see it in the next couple of weeks. Also, as Maury mentioned, we began working with Do It, our big website update project. So that's in progress. And in the meantime, we did get one cool thing done, and it's, cool if you're a nerd like me, but I will share the link here. We streamlined the meetings and agendas page. So of course, the help will Do It, but now the agendas and the minutes are all in one place. So, thanks to Do It. Of course, thank you, Debbie, for working with Do It to get this done. And the committee's agendas and minutes are next. As Maury also let me plug earlier, I completed the NYC Open Data Ambassador program just last week. And part of why I did it was to help empower our community to learn more about open data and get more access to the information that we have available to us. And it really is kind of unique for New York City. Okay, great. Thanks for catching that. So I'm hoping to facilitate a couple more open data 101 sessions via the tech committee through the rest of this year, so we can help empower our community to empower themselves with more data to make decisions. So stay tuned for more open data news from the tech committee. And that is it for me.
Thank you, Anatole. And sign up for the newsletter. And Health and Human Services.
Okay, so for our February meeting, Andrea Thomas was there from Sunnyside Community Services. She updated us on some things that are happening there. Sunnyside SCS hosted vaccination clinics and boosters on February 16th and 17th. She mentioned their adult day program, the social adult day program, had gone virtual back in December because of the Omicron variant. So they were slowly transitioning back to in-person twice a week. And then she mentioned that the SCS Home Health Aid training program was moving to LIC sometime in April or May, and they were looking for participants. And our guest was Clara Londono, the Assistant Director of Community Affairs at Elmhurst Hospital. And she spoke about vaccine testing and availability at Elmhurst, and also their outreach efforts to the community. So, which included going to neighborhood bodegas in order to educate and encourage about the COVID and flu vaccines, as well as working with schools and community boards regarding various health issues. When asked how Community Board 2 could help, she made it clear that she wants to be informed about community events so she can attend, and then that would be an opportunity for her to be able to inform and educate the community about different health issues. The other thing that came up was this idea too that Elmhurst Hospital offers more than emergency services, that they also have cardiovascular, trauma, and orthopedic, and take care of all of those kinds of things. So just more promotion, I guess, in terms of what Elmhurst does offer. And then lastly, we began a discussion regarding our committee's mission statement, goals, and stakeholders document, and we'll continue that discussion at our March meeting, which is scheduled for Monday, March 14th at 5 p.m. And Maury, I just wanted to, I think we should let people know about the virtual hearing, there's a virtual hearing that the state legislature is holding tomorrow regarding mayoral control and accountability over the public schools. And let me just see if I can put the link. There's a link, so you can sign up to testify, but I assume it's going to be via Zoom. So I'll just put a web link. Okay, and that's it. It starts at 10, by the way.
10 a.m. Okay. Thank you, Laura. Lauren, thank you very much. All right. So before we go, we're almost there. Hang on for a second. Jake has something. He's got his hand up. Jake?
Yeah, thanks, Maury. Hey, everyone. I just wanted to let you all know that I am going to be stepping down from CB2. It has been a great run for the last 3 years. I've really enjoyed working with all of you and getting to know you all. I've learned a lot. It's been interesting. As some of you know, I've recently moved outside of the community board district. And while I do still own a business in the district, so I have a lot of investment in the work you all are going to continue to do, I feel like it's a good time for me to step aside and open up a slot for one of the many, many other people who our friends at Barrow Hall said are excited to join you all on the board. So thank you all for your comradeship, and I look forward to seeing you around the community and around Queens, and good luck with all your work.
Thank you, Jake. It's been an honor and a pleasure to serve with you. We didn't always agree on everything, but I have utmost respect for you. I think we agree more than we disagree, and you've been a great asset to the board. I've learned a lot from you, and I'm so grateful for your service. And I'm sure a lot of other folks do too. You do a lot for the community, and we're going to miss you. It's going to be a big loss for us. But I do also want to just say, you know, you're the second person recently, Jake, who has had to step down or chose to step down for one reason or another, and made a comment where you said you're going to make room for other people. And I really appreciate that. And the thing that's difficult for me is for someone who's as involved as you and shows up all the time at committee meetings and, you know, steps up and chairs a meeting if someone's not available, and, you know, makes all the meetings. It's a big loss, and I respect you for making this comment that you want to make room for others. And, you know, I hope that statement isn't lost. And I hope folks who have trouble attending can step up with their attendance. And if they're having troubles, they should reach out to us. Thank you. Anatol, you want to say something?
Yeah, I personally got to thank Jake. Thank you for, you know, being a founding member of the tech committee, for encouraging me to chair it, and of course for all the things you helped the board get done, from, you know, the Zoom best practices to file management trainings, but especially the Google Calendar page and the Google Calendar that was a lot of Jake did some of the code. So thank you for all that. You know, you'll be strongly missed.
Thank you, Anatol. Thank you, Maury. Thanks, everyone.
I just want to thank you too, Jake. We did not always agree, but you dragged us across into the high-tech world, and it's living out there on its own. And, you know, I think Anatol is a great shepherd, and there are a lot of other people interested. So thank you for your patience in the early days of trying to do that. And, you know, you have to have foresight. So great work. Thank you.
Nick?
Echoing a lot of what other folks have said, but I always think that Jake is someone who believes what he believes very strongly and inserts that the strength of those opinions into our conversations in ways that are useful and motor us through to the point of what it is we're actually talking about presents an argument always that is pretty captivating. And there's been any number of instances where I've walked in not knowing what I was going to think, and a conversation with Jake has ultimately changed that. And I'm sure I'm not the only person who's had that interaction with him. Sometimes I've come out of the conversation with the opposite argument that, but anyway, just that ability and that sort of groundedness that Jake always brings, and the intensity with which he brings it, has been one of the most useful things on this board, and I'm going to severely miss it. So thank you for your time, Jake.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Nick. Sorry to drag it out, everyone, but thank you everybody for all that.
If I would have known in advance, we would have brought a virtual cake. Anyone else?
Well, if you're asking, I'm just going to suggest, can we all just unmute for 1 second and say thank you? 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Can
you.
I make a motion to adjourn?
Do we have a second?
Second.
Anybody against? Then I think the motion carries and we are adjourned. Have a
Bye, everyone.
great day.
Good night.
Bye.
Happy
Bye.
St. Pat's Day.